After arriving at the club, the four people got out of the car while Brexter went to look for a parking spot. As they walked in, Samuel patted Kira on the shoulder. "Judge Williams is not bad. Keep it up." Colleen encouraged her as well. "I bet that Senior Williams likes you." Kira was at a loss and wondered if Brexter really liked her. She had the feeling that she was being targeted by a wolf. When she went upstairs, Jason and the others had already arrived. They had ordered a few cases of beer and red wine. Kira had a headache, wondering if they were determined to get drunk. Fortunately, after years of practicing, she could hold her liquor. Not long after, Brexter also came in. There were already 2 women sitting beside Kira, so he could only sit about 4 meters away from her. When everyone arrived, some of them knew how to warm up the atmosphere and started toasting while others began to sing songs, play games, or chat. Kira didn't play games since the losers had to drink wine, so she picked up a microphone and began to sing. However, as she sang, things became a little weird. That was because Carter, the tactless man, had taken over the microphone. His singing was bad, but he liked to roar into the microphone, thinking that was the way to sing the high notes. Kira's voice was completely covered by his. She simply put down the microphone and let him sing. Carter shamelessly walked over and said loudly, "Kira, let's sing the next song together. We must love even if we die." Kira's lips twitched. "No, thank you. Your singing is so good. I don't feel worthy to sing with you." Carter did not hear her sarcasm at all. He laughed and said, "It's okay. I know that song's very difficult, but I'll help you." Kira ignored him. Just as the song was about to play, they found it had been changed to another song, "Ugly Guy." Those who were watching the show were stunned, especially Kira and Carter. "I'm sorry, it's my song. Give me the microphone, ugly guy." Brexter's tall figure appeared in front of the 2 of them. He was a head taller than Carter and was looking down at him, his gaze as cold as the abyss. Kira's lips twitched, almost bursting into laughter. How mean he was. "Whom are you calling ugly guy?" Carter looked as if he wanted to kill Brexter with his gaze. Brexter looked at him with an "Are you crazy?" gaze and said, "I was talking about the title of my song, not you. Aren't you being too sensitive?" "You!" Carter glared at him, knowing Brexter was doing it on purpose. "Then why did you change my song?" "To purify the air," Brexter suddenly smiled. Carter was stunned, looking confused. "Are you crazy? The air's fine, you don't need to purify it." "I'm talking about you singing. It was too noisy. I wanted to change to a quiet song to let everyone have some peace." Brexter looked at him calmly. Kira almost died of laughter. She believed that he wanted to say Carter's singing was terrible when he paused. Fortunately, he didn't say it or they'd get into a fist fight. But Carter was so stupid that he didn't even realize what he meant. "Clubs are noisy. Besides, this is a club where there's karaoke. Uncle, if you don't like it, you should go home." Carter looked extremely annoyed and he yelled, "This place isn't suitable for you." Brexter looked at Kira coolly. "He called me uncle. What do you think?" Kira blinked as she looked at the 2 men in front of her. Carter was shorter than Brexter. In fact, Carter could be considered okay in looks, but when he stood next to Brexter, who had a chiseled face, there was no comparison at all. Even if Brexter was a few years older, Carter looked like a clown standing next to him. She coughed lightly. She knew that Brexter was helping her, so she said bluntly, "Carter, stop fooling around. Judge Williams is only a few years older than you, and you should take better care of yourself, really." Carter's expression changed instantly. He threw the microphone onto the sofa. The microphone creaked, causing the lively room to fall silent, and everyone turned to look at them. Kira handed the microphone to Brexter awkwardly. She wasn't sure if it was her imagination or not, but she felt that Brexter's lips seemed to curve up in the darkness, but the smile soon disappeared. "I'm surprised that you chose this song," Kira said jokingly. It wasn't that he wasn't too old for those songs. It was just that the songs didn't fit his personality. "Oh, I made a mistake just now. I don't know how to sing this song." Brexter suddenly leaned towards her, his scent slowly wafting into her nose along with the smell of alcohol in the private chamber. Kira subconsciously moved back on the sofa. He lowered his head and stared at her with his calm, dark eyes. "Why are you dodging? I'm just changing the song." After that, he touched the screen on the wall behind her. A few seconds later, she sat up awkwardly with embarrassment on her beautiful face. Ugly Guy was suddenly switched to King of Karaoke. Nathan walked over with a smile. "Brexter, you're actually going to sing King of Karaoke. This song seems quite long." "Yes, because I'm the King of Karaoke. I'll teach some people what high notes are." Brexter glanced at Carter and Kiara before walking towards the singing platform on the right with the microphone. There was a tall stool and a small screen on the platform. Kiara was confused. She knew why he glanced at Carter, but why did he glance at her? She knew what high notes were. On the platform, Brexter sat on the tall stool. One of his long legs was bent under the chair while the other casually stepped onto the ground. He held the microphone and started singing. Perhaps it was because she had been tortured by Carter's demonic voice for too long. Kiara suddenly felt that Brexter's voice was heavenly. Not only was his pitch accurate, but even his pronunciation was also perfect. Of course, his voice was so good that it brought goosebumps all over her body. He could even sing the high notes without any difficulty. Under the dark blue light, his prominent eyebrows, sword-shaped eyebrows, and eyes as cool as stars were too beautiful for words. Was he still the solemn judge in a black robe in the courtroom? The people who had been playing games and drinking in the private chamber stopped what they were doing. The women were staring at him intently. Samuel sighed. "Oh, with his looks and voice, it's such a pity that he doesn't enter the entertainment industry." Nathan rolled his eyes. No wonder people said that every man falling in love was a surprise package. Brexter was no exception. After the song ended, Brexter put down the microphone and everyone started clapping. Kiara also clapped. At this moment, Tanya walked over and said, "Kiara, Samuel, do you want to play Who Was the Spy with us? It's just playing." "Sure." Samuel was bored of playing dice and drinking. She didn't want to decline the invitation from a senior. Kiara also agreed. In the past, she had played this game with her friends, and it was all based on acting skills, so she was quite interested. In the end, 7 people were playing Who Was the Spy? They gathered together to introduce each other, and coincidentally, Brexter had finished singing and they wished he could go on singing. One of them said, "When Brexter sings, it's a feast for both the eyes and the ears." Tanya smiled as she pulled everyone into a small room and gave them one word. Then she smiled and said, "But according to his requirements for his future wife, I'm afraid no woman is willing to marry him." Samuel was puzzled. "What requirements?" The other senior woman smiled but didn't say anything. Tell us! Tell us! Colleen couldn't help asking because she knew that Kiara and Brexter were familiar with each other. Tanya shrugged. "When we had dinner, Brexter told us about his criteria for choosing a wife. There's no monetary gift for marrying him, and his wife will provide the house. Besides, they'll have a wedding in a 3-star hotel at the most. After they get married, his wife must give him her paychecks every month." Kiara was stunned. She wasn't the only one. All the other women also had strange expressions on their faces. "The requirements are too harsh to be true." Samuel was the first one to voice her disbelief. "Maybe he said these words on purpose?" "I don't know, but I heard that he used to have a fiancée, but she suddenly decided not to marry him," someone mentioned hesitantly. Another woman said in surprise, "Indeed?" I don't blame her. After all, few women would agree to such conditions. "Forget it. Let's not talk about him. Let's play the game. Tanya glanced at Kiara. Everyone, remember to protect the words in your hands. Don't let others see them. Kiara nodded, still thinking about what she had heard. Did Brexter really have such harsh criteria in choosing his wife? She knew he was renovating his apartment, but nothing else. Was Brexter a generous guy? She didn't think so. After all, she had to pay for her own drinks during their blind date. But he wasn't a man who liked to take others' advantage. At his request, she paid for the meals, but the food was not expensive. In short, she didn't know if the rumors were true or not. But if the rumors were true, Kiara shivered. Now, even if he really had feelings for her, she wouldn't consider him. It was just a pity that such a handsome man with a good career might not have a girlfriend. At around 11 o'clock, after Kiara drank 3 bottles of beer, her phone rang again. It was Sasha. She wondered why Sasha called her so late at night. She walked out of the room with her phone. Advocate Kell, I've been reading the bunch of case files you gave me. There's something I don't quite understand and wanted to ask you about. I hope I didn't interrupt you. Kiara smiled. You're still up. You're quite hardworking. All right, go ahead and ask. Sasha asked her about a criminal case. It took Kiara 5 minutes to answer her questions. After ending the call, she turned around and saw Carter walk up to her. His face was red with alcohol and his eyes were unfriendly. Kiara frowned and turned around, intending to leave on another route. Carter blocked her way again, acting like a ruffian. His breath was filled with the smell of alcohol and his tone was extremely unpleasant. Where are you going, Kiara? I'm doing you a favor that I stayed here tonight. Thank you, Kiara smiled faintly, but I should go back in. Go in for what? Carter grabbed her delicate wrist, his gaze cold. Do you think I don't know what Judge Williams is thinking? Who does he think he is? He's just a judge. To put it bluntly, a judge doesn't have as much money as I do. Look at that crappy car he drives. I drive a Porsche. If you marry me, I'll give you one too. Kiara burst out laughing. I don't want a Porsche. How about a Bentley Mouchon? It's only over $5 million. The corner of Carter's mouth twitched for a moment before he chuckled. He sized her up from head to toe. You're worth $5 million? Kiara smiled without saying a word. Carter's expression changed. He pointed at her and yelled, I offered to buy you a Porsche because I think highly of you. To be honest, for a woman like you who's almost 30 years old, I'm doing you a favor to marry you. Who do you think you are? That's right. Back then, you were the belle of our department. I chased you and you ignored me. But now, if you're really so good, you should have married long ago. I know a woman like you. You're so picky because you want to marry into a rich family. But do you think a rich family would want a woman like you? If you don't marry me, you won't meet a good man like me in the future. You'll end up marrying a divorced man or a bald old man. Kiara's expression remained calm as if she wasn't ruffled by his words. Are you done? Can I leave now? She had seen men like Carter before, so no matter how harsh his words were, Kiara did not feel angry. Men like him had been losers for a long time, and when they got some money, they thought they were above others. In fact, she did not even care about his small amount of money. She just thought it was below her to talk to him. What? You're not going to say a fucking word at all? Not only did Carter not let her leave, he even pulled her closer. What I said was on target, right? You can leave if you want to, but you've humiliated me again and again today. I won't let you get away with it. Then what do you want? Kiara was curious about how shameless he could be. Sleep with me. Sleep with me once, Carter said shamelessly. Kiara raised her hand and slapped his face. Carter raised his hand in anger, but his arm was grabbed by someone. Then he was pulled back forcefully. Carter felt something hit him hard on his back. He raised his head and faced Brexter's cold and gloomy face. "What are you doing?" Carter roared. "The judge wants to hit me." Brexter tilted his delicate chin slightly. "The judge is indeed not good at hitting people. We are more suited to talk about the law." "What law?" "Money is the law," Carter chuckled. "Like me, you're also interested in Kiara, right? How about this? I'll have her for the first half of the night and you can have her for the second half. I'll pay for the room." No matter how well-mannered Kiara was, her exquisite face was now filled with anger. Brexter turned to look at her. "How could you have such a classmate?" "I'm surprised too," Kiara shrugged. "His shamelessness has already surpassed the limit of my tolerance. But he's probably drunk, and we can't reason with drunkards." "You're right, so I've decided to hit him," Brexter said as he raised his fist and punched Carter in the face. A man's fist is far more stronger than a woman's palm. Carter fell to the ground, his nose bleeding. However, before he knew what happened, Brexter grabbed him by the collar and threw him a few more punches. Kiara was stunned. Brexter was tall, but she didn't expect him to be such a good fighter. Carter just couldn't block his punches. However, what surprised her even more was that Brexter would hit people for her. After all, they weren't that close. He could just send Carter away. There was no need to hit him. He was a judge and people would think that he was bullying others. The beating shocked everyone. The club security guard and manager immediately rushed over to stop him. The manager tried to smooth things over, but Carter was angry and insisted that he was not in the wrong and wanted to call the police. He even said that Brexter was bullying others because he was a judge. The onlookers pointed at Brexter and started talking amongst themselves. "I heard he's a judge. No wonder he's so arrogant." "The judge has power, right? So he thinks he can get away with it no matter what he does?" "Judges are powerful. There's no justice in this world." Brexter was unruffled when he heard the comments and said to Carter, "I did hit you, but if you say that I'm using my power to bully you, then that's slander against a public official. You used to study law, so you don't need me to tell you the consequences." Carter sobered up and chuckled. "You're saying that I'm slandering you? What evidence do you have?" Brexter turned to look at Kiara. "Advocate Kell, someone as cautious as you should have a recording of the incident, right?" Kiara looked at him in surprise and then smiled. "Indeed." Then she turned on the speaker so everyone could hear Carter's words from beginning to end. The onlookers immediately glared at Carter, especially the women. "How shameless is he? How can a man be so low? Oh my God, this has really refreshed my understanding of scumbags. Does he think that having a Porsche is that impressive?" The table was suddenly turned. Carter wished he could crawl into a hole in the ground, but he shouted, "I was drunk just now!" Brexter clenched his fist. He had only heard the second half of the harassment. It turned out that Carter had said so many harsh words before he came. He had really gone too easy on this guy. He picked up Carter and said coldly, "One speaks the truth when he gets drunk. Besides, I don't think you're drunk at all. You only drink to embolden yourself to speak your mind. But these words of yours completely constitute an insult and sexual harassment. Not only were you verbally attacking her, you also physically harassed her. It's enough to have you detained." Ignoring the pain in his face, Carter hurriedly said, "When did I physically harass her?" He knew that as long as there was no physical harassment, his punishment wouldn't be too severe. "My hand," Kiara raised her hand. "It's red from being grabbed by you. This is physical contact. The police will take it as evidence when we get to the police station later." "You're simply lying!" Carter roared. "You're wrong. Lawyers never make a statement without evidence." Kiara smiled lightly. You were a law student and you forgot never to mess with a lawyer. Maybe you've made some money and got forgetful. It's okay. I'll refresh your memory. She dialed the police. When she waited for the line to get through, she said to Carter, "By the way, do you think driving a Porsche is awesome? I have a Ferrari at home. I think lawyers should keep a low profile occasionally. So I basically don't drive it." The onlookers gasped. Brexter raised his eyebrows and looked at her. Carter gritted his teeth. "You're bragging. How could you possibly drive a Ferrari?" "Poverty really limits your imagination." Kira shook her head sympathetically. Some cops happened to be patrolling nearby, so they arrived not long after. The alumni of the club also knew about this matter. Samuel and the others knew that Carter had always had improper thoughts toward Kira. They did not expect that he would do such a thing. However, some of them were Carter's friends, so they tried to smooth things over. "Kira, why don't you guys settle this privately? After all, we're all alumni, and today is the school's 30th anniversary and a rare occasion for everyone to gather together. There's no need to go to the police station." Samuel said bluntly, "Forgive my bluntness, but when he did this, did he ever consider that we are alumni? When we're eating, he was also looking for trouble. Kira was nice, so she didn't say anything nasty, but he went too far this time." Another guy said embarrassedly, "But no matter what, Senior Williams hit him, and it wouldn't be good for Senior his reputation if he really went to the police station." Brexter glanced at him. "Don't worry, I was very careful when I hit him. The doctors would decide that he only has a light injury. He will recover on his own in no time. I will only need to pay for his medical fees and meals." Everyone was stunned, and they turned to look at Carter. Carter, whose face, nose, mouth, and chest were burning from the pain, was also stunned. Only then did he remember which parts Brexter had hit. A chill ran down his spine as he understood the situation. "Brexter, you're so despicable!" "No, this is called obeying the law," Brexter corrected him calmly. "I attacked because I was angry at the moment, but my rationality kept me in check. I just taught you a lesson. The law will decide the rest of the punishment for you." He was so calm and frank that even Kira couldn't help but admire him. If this guy was also a lawyer, he would be a fierce rival for her. Luckily, he was a judge. Everyone looked at each other and decided they would not mess with Brexter in the future. Nathan and Samuel, who had guessed Brexter's thoughts, were screaming in their hearts. If Brexter and Kira were together, the two of them would be unrivaled. They decided not to mess with these two in the future. After the cops arrived, they inquired about the incident and brought Kira, Brexter, and Carter to the police station. In the main hall of the police station, after the police understood what had happened, they also disliked people like Carter. However, since the case was not big, they would usually advise the people involved to settle it privately. "How about this?" the cop advised. "You guys have hit him and vented your anger. He has also learned his lesson, so let's just take a step back." Brexter looked at Kira silently, indicating that it was up to her. "No," Kira shook her head decisively. "He has learned his lesson here today, but what happens when he's with another woman? What if he uses his drunkenness to sexually harass another woman? I was lucky today since someone was there to help me. But what about other women? Will they be that lucky? He should be punished by the law." Carter said fiercely, "Kira, you think you're great because you know the law, right? Do you think I don't know the law? If the worst comes to worst, I'll see you in court." "Sure, I'll drive a Ferrari to see you in court." Kira's gaze was as fierce as a torch. Carter grits his teeth. Brexter coughed lightly. "I can testify in court." Looking at the two of them, Carter lost his confidence. He really didn't want to have a lawsuit. No matter how shameless he was, he knew that he was in the wrong and that he'd be convicted of sexual harassment. He was just trying to see if he could be convicted only of verbal sexual harassment. After deliberating for a moment, Carter calmed down. "If you guys don't agree to settle this privately, then forget it.
Let the police file a case. In any case, I will only be detained for a maximum of 5 days or so."
Rexter furrowed his brows. This case was a little troublesome because Carter also knew the law. "Sure, I happen to know a friend from a television station," Kira said with a smile. "She has been seeking news recently. A case like this will act as a good alert for women if it's broadcasted." Carter could no longer remain calm. With the development of the internet, if he were to appear in the news, his reputation would be ruined. After all, he was a businessman and he didn't have a wife.
"Kiara, you don't go too far!"
He glared at her with red eyes. "We have settled it." Kira looked at the police officer. The corners of the police officer's mouth twitched. Carter clenched his fist and struggled for a moment. Finally, he lowered his head and said in a low voice,
"Kiara, I'm sorry. Tonight it was all my fault. I won't dare to mess with you again. Please forgive me."
"Forgive you?" Kara took a step towards him and took out her phone. She found a charity event for needy children and said, "Sure. Don't you have money? If you donate $100,000, I'll forgive you." Brexter was surprised. He had thought that she was going to take money for herself. But to his surprise, she wanted to collect money for needy children. It seemed he knew little about her. Carter glared at her.
100,000? It won't cost me 100,000 to spend a night with a woman. You're robbing me.
"I'm not taking your 100,000 for myself. I'm just asking you to help those orphans who don't have the money to go to school. You can consider it as doing charity for yourself. A person like you must have done a lot of bad things." Kira sneered. "You keep saying that you have money, but you don't have any kindness at all. If you're not willing to settle it privately, then forget it. I'm fine with it." The policeman at the side cleared his throat and pretended that he didn't hear the conversation.
"Fine, I'll donate. I'll treat it as giving money away to beggars,"
Carter said in resignation. The policeman's face darkened and warned him.
"Watch your words. How can you call these children beggars? If this lady didn't agree to settle, I would have locked you up for a few days."
Being reprimanded by the police officer, Carter did not dare to say another word and donated 100,000 under Kiara's supervision. The three of them signed the papers and left the police station. Although Carter was not happy with the result, he got a huge setback this time. He did not dare to stay with them any longer and left in a taxi dejectedly. At the entrance of the police station, Brexter stared at the slim woman standing under the streetlights. She had come out in a hurry and was only wearing a white sweater. Her cheeks were slightly red from drinking, looking as if she had applied a thin layer of rouge. She exuded an alluring aura. He was lost in his thoughts for a moment, feeling that Kira was like a book. At first glance, she was only a pretty woman. However, after getting to know her better, he was more and more interested in her. He had never liked people who loved money and did not like the way people talked about money. However, the more he saw her, the more he liked her. He liked the way she looked when she got aggressive. Kira glanced at the road, wondering if she should take the taxi back. She turned and met Brexter's bottomless eyes, which reminded her of a black hole that could suck people in. She composed herself and quickly said, "Chief Judge Williams, thank you so much for helping me today." Brexter's lips moved slightly. Kira thought he was going to ask her to treat him to a meal again, so she quickly interrupted him. "You don't have to say it. I will definitely treat you to a meal." Brexter's eyes flashed with a hint of a smile. Actually, he hadn't wanted to ask her to treat him to a meal, but since she had said it, he definitely wouldn't refuse.
"It's cold."
He took off his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. Standing before her, his tall figure blocked the wind for her. Kira was considered tall, but when she stood next to him, she looked very petite. At that moment, she felt the surrounding air seem thinner because of his presence. Kira was dazed for a while before she turned back to look at the suit jacket, recalling what Ariana and Samuel had said to her. Brexter was interested in her. This realization made her heart tremble. Chief Judge Williams, do you like me? Kara raised her head. She didn't like to beat around the bush. Huh? Brexter was stunned. Like her? He hadn't really thought about it. He just felt that if they were to get married in the future, Kara would be a good wife and she was also very different. It would be nice to be with her. You're not even sure that you like me or not? Kara saw the hesitation in his eyes and suddenly smiled. Didn't we have a blind date? Brexter suddenly said. I'm quite satisfied with the result of that blind date. Kara didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So you just think that I'm a suitable partner for marriage, right? Do you think I am a suitable partner for marriage? Brexter asked back. No, you're not, Kara answered honestly. Brexter blinked. I am. Kara rolled her eyes. Brexter said seriously. I think I'm pretty good looking and I'm 1.85 meters tall. When you're tired, I'll get you water and massage your shoulders. If you want me to go east, as long as it's not a matter of principle, I will listen to you. Marrying into your family means that the children will have your surname, and it doesn't matter to me since I don't care about carrying on the family line. It's your decision when we'll have children. I will definitely not cheat on you, and I will also give you my paychecks each month. Kara looked at him blankly as he spoke, finding that what he said was very familiar. She suddenly remembered that these were the requirements she had said to trick Carter during the dinner. He had memorized them. As for you staying out late, I think you should go home early if it's not necessary for work or social events. It's not safe outside, but I will accompany you. As for a one-night stand, I think we should be faithful to each other as husband and wife, Brexter said as he looked at her quietly. What do you think? Kara gulped. What the heck? Didn't you say you give no monetary gift to your future wife and she needs to have an apartment? Your wedding can only be held in a 3-star hotel and there will be no honeymoon? And your wife must give you her paychecks every month? Kara suddenly remembered it. Brexter's expression darkened when he heard that. Who told you that? Kara coughed lightly. Chief Judge Williams, we are honest citizens. So we must not trick people into marrying us, right? Do you plan to conceal your true colors until you get married? That's immoral. Brexter took a step forward, his tall body moving closer to her, his unfathomable eyes revealing a faint smile. I never trick people into marrying me. His voice was like a subwoofer. Kara's heart skipped a beat. She took a few steps back, then warned him in a flutter. If you want to talk, then talk. Don't move so close to me. Brexter acted as though he didn't hear what she had said. He bent down and continued. I'm guessing you heard these words from someone from my dinner party tonight? It doesn't matter who said it. Kara never exposes her source of information. What matters is your view of marriage. Brexter shook his head, his gaze on her getting deeper. I said those words to those women so they wouldn't have plans for me. My view of marriage is what I said to you just now. Kara was stunned, but then she realized what he had said was probably true. After all, no man would have such weird thoughts about marriage. I think you did the same. Brexter suddenly raised his eyebrows. You said those words in order to frighten away Carter. Kara, actually, our ways of doing things are quite similar. I think we're suitable for each other. Kara was quite surprised that they had used the same method to scare off their suitors, but his last sentence drew her attention. How are we suitable? We're suitable in every way, Brexter said, but she felt they were unsuitable in every way. As Kara remained silent, Brexter inquired in a low voice. So we've agreed upon the view on marriage, right? I think we can get married this year. Kara was stunned.
We're talking about our views on marriage. When did we agree upon it? We talked about it a lot just now. Brexter frowned and reminded her. And don't you think fate brought us together? Kira took a deep breath and smiled bitterly. She had indeed met Brexter quite a number of times. But what you said made me think that you're just looking for a suitable wife. I happen to be the one who has met your requirements in the past few years, but you are not suitable for me. Brexter stared at her, his eyes filled with a trace of displeasure. Explain yourself. Kira continued. What I mean is that even though you have good looks and a good job and we both studied law, I've met handsome men like you before and I didn't go out with any of them. It's not because they weren't good, but because I don't want to find a suitable man to marry. I want a man who loves me and I love him, and we are willing to sacrifice ourselves for each other. And he is someone I can rely on. We didn't reach a consensus on this, so how could I marry you? After a few seconds of silence, Brexter asked unhappily, So there were a lot of men like me in your life, right? Kira was speechless. So this was what he cared about? I'm very grateful for your help tonight, Kira continued. Actually, she had begun to like him for what he had done for her tonight. But when he couldn't say whether he liked her or not, Kira was disappointed. Chief Judge Williams, to be honest, I've seen many men and women who have chosen a suitable marriage partner because they want to get married. That's fine. But I always wonder if they love each other and if they are passionate about each other. Do they want to spend every minute and every second of their life with each other? Perhaps you would think it's ridiculous for me to talk about love at the age of almost 30. But I don't think so. I have money, abilities, a house, a car, and a company. Why should I make do? Why can't I wait for love? Love. Brexter's gaze deepened, his brows furrowing imperceptibly. It wasn't that he hadn't thought about this question before, but later he realized that love wasn't reliable. He didn't know why, but when he saw the woman in front of him say those words, he felt that if she was a book, then unknowingly he seemed to have turned to a new and exciting chapter. This chapter stirred his heart, which had been still as stagnant water. He had really never met a woman like her. She loved money and loved to earn money. When someone scratched her car, she would demand a huge amount of money for compensation. She loved money, but she knew how to help needy people. She loved money, and because she had money, she had the confidence to wait for love. Kira, I think I kind of like you, he pursed his dry lips and suddenly said in a low voice. Kira's heart skipped a beat, mainly because his voice was so pleasant and his looks were so attractive. She couldn't remain calm when he said that he liked her. However, she wasn't a little girl after all and had experienced many things. She calmed down after half a minute and smiled. Chief Judge Williams, you really spare no effort to convince me to be with you. You even resort to deception. Brexter was surprised. How could she say he was deceiving her? He hadn't thought about it at first, but just now his mind was in a mess. Just a few minutes ago, I asked you if you liked me, but you were silent. In a few minutes, you say you like me? Kira asked with a bitter smile. Brexter's emotions were complicated. She had the ability to change his mind. What could he do? Kira, your thoughts are good, but what about your parents? He reminded her. Even though he had only met them once in the mental hospital, he knew that her parents would not tolerate Kira's thoughts. They don't agree with me, of course. Kira's eyes flashed with hurt at the mention of her parents. But so what? I'm the one who's getting married, and I'm the one who's going to live with the man for the rest of my life. So it's up to me to decide. There are people who don't make do and wouldn't force themselves to be together when they no longer love each other.
A few days ago, when I went to Paris alone and saw couples on the streets, I felt very lonely and envious. That's why I agreed with my aunt to have a blind date. But then I came to a realization. Can I be sure that I won't feel lonely after being married? Then why do so many female clients come to me with expressions of sadness, loneliness, and resentment? If I'm married, can I tour the world with my husband with great pleasure if we have different views on the world? Brexter fell into a long silence. He had never thought about these questions. He only knew that he would get married, have a child, and live a simple life. In his office, many senior colleagues always told him that he should find a passable marriage partner who was not too pretty, had a stable job, and had a well-matched family. He had thought he would live such a routine life as the others. But Kiera's appearance was like a bolt of lightning that split his world apart and brought a dazzling light into the world. Kiera, perhaps you are an accident in my quiet life. After a very, very long time, when Kiera mentioned that she wanted to leave by car, he spoke in a husky voice. His gaze was as deep as the sea in the dark night. Kiera's heart skipped a beat and she thought she saw a hint of resentment in his eyes. Brexter's emotions were complicated, but he quickly calmed down. After all, he was a judge and he knew what to do. Kiera, you have successfully convinced me. Huh? Kiera was even more confused. Brexter's dark eyes were deep and his cold face had a hint of a smile under the streetlights. I did want to find a suitable woman to get married at the right time. But you successfully made me give up on that idea. You're right. If I get married just for the sake of getting married, I'll only have a sense of responsibility after marriage. Without the foundation of love, it would indeed be very boring for two people who have never interacted before to live together. If the two of them have shared values and do things with similar methods, then they are very compatible with each other and their life together would definitely be very interesting. Oh, Kiera took a long time to react. Just like that, she had changed the mind of an older man who had wanted to find a suitable woman to marry. She wondered if his parents would kill her for that. Kiera, since we have similar views, can we give it a try? Brexter suddenly turned his face away and looked at the robe beside him, his ears turning slightly red. Kiera looked at his ears in surprise. Why was his skin so delicate? It turned out his ears could almost turn red. What do you think? After waiting for a while, Brexter frowned and looked at her in annoyance. He had his self-respect. He had asked her to go out with him 3 times but was rejected. I think you don't understand what I meant. Kiera snapped back to reality and said dryly, It seems like you've never asked me if I like you. Don't you know how important this question is? Brexter froze, realizing he had indeed not asked this question. However, he had the feeling that he was being played. Kiera, did I do anything to offend you? That's a good question. Kiera nodded and started to count. You walked into the ladies' room at the court, and I wondered what was wrong with you. Then when I bumped into you on the blind date, you made me pay for your juice. It wasn't romantic at all. When you asked me to treat you to a meal, you always picked a small restaurant that didn't look romantic at all. Also, every time we met, you always asked me to treat you to a meal. Don't you know that when a man and a woman are together, the man usually pays the bill? Then I'll treat you to a meal tomorrow, Brexter suddenly interrupted her. Kiera's face turned red. Can you let me finish? All right, continue. Brexter nodded. Kiera continued. I asked you to accompany me for a drink and you kept nagging me and sent me those cases in which women got into trouble when they got drunk. It totally ruined my mood. I was worried for your safety and I wanted you to be careful. Brexter interrupted her again. Kiera glared at him. Brexter coughed lightly and said, Continue. Kiera said, Also, I once liked Aaron and you accused me of having bad taste in men. Because I was jealous, Brexter interrupted her again. Kiera's face turned even redder.
Even the dim streetlights could not hide her blush. Brexter stared at her, a fire burning in his heart. When he saw her biting her lower lip, he suddenly wanted to kiss her. "Can I kiss you?" he blurted out. Kiera was embarrassed, her face flushed red. She had just met a leecher, but she had never met a leecher like him. She raised her eyes and glared at him. "What do you think?" "I think the answer is no." Brexter realized his rudeness and answered honestly. "Since you knew the answer was no, why did you ask?" Kiera didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She had never met such a person before, but she wasn't angry. She was just embarrassed and a little flustered. Brexter looked at her silently. His deep eyes seemed to speak louder than words. Kiera truly felt that she shouldn't continue the conversation. The more they talked, the more ambiguous it became. Just then, her phone rang. Samuel called her, saying that her bag and coat were still at the club. She asked Kiera if she'd go back to pick them up or had them delivered to her. "I'll pick them up." Kiera didn't want to trouble her. After hanging up, she looked up to bid Brexter farewell, but he shook his head. "Let's go. I'll accompany you to the club to pick up your things." Kiera declined. "There's no need. It's almost 1 a.m. and you'd better go home. You still have work tomorrow. I can go by myself. I'll go home after I get my things." Brexter's expression was solemn. "I don't want to see any news about a famous lawyer being attacked or dragged into the bushes tomorrow morning." Kiera was speechless. She couldn't take it anymore. "As a judicial officer, you keep saying these things. It shows that you subconsciously think that this society is not safe at all." "No," Brexter shook his head decisively. "It's not safe for a beautiful woman like you to be out during the night." Kiera was a little happy, but also a little angry. "What do you mean? Are you trying to say that it's my fault because I'm beautiful? If it wasn't for the evil thoughts in men's hearts, women would be safe to go out in the middle of the night wearing a short skirt." "I'm not one of those men," Brexter frowned. "But I can't deny that many men nowadays have unhealthy thoughts. Didn't you just meet one tonight?" "Can't you say something nice?" Kiera placed one hand on her hip. Brexter thought for a moment and said, "I also left something at the club." "What is it?" "You." Brexter stared at her silently. Kiera said, "I'm right here." "You'll be there in a while." "What does that have to do with you?" Kiera tried her best to refute. "I'm just worried." Brexter had to admit it in the end. Was this flirting? Kiera was a little uncomfortable, and so was Brexter. It was eerily quiet. In the end, the awkward silence was broken by a taxi that stopped in front of them. The driver shouted, "Where are you going? Do you want to take a taxi?" "Get in." Brexter immediately opened the back door, and Kiera pulled open the front passenger door. He paused and asked, "Aren't you going to sit in the back?" "It's not very safe out at night. If something happens to me in the front, you can break the window and escape from the back." Kiera smiled as she got into the car. Brexter was stunned for a few seconds and then smiled. He got into the car and replied, "I'm here and he wouldn't dare to do anything to you." The innocent driver was completely baffled and couldn't take it anymore. "Ma'am and sir, do I look like a bad guy? It's not very nice of you to say that about me. I'm a good taxi driver." "I was just kidding," Kiera said with a smile. "You make me feel safer than the person behind us." The driver understood. "I see. It turns out you guys are lovers. Young people nowadays are really different. A 40-year-old like me can't keep up with you at all." Kiera was embarrassed. "No, we are not the kind of relationship that you think." "I understand," the driver nodded. "What kind of a relationship can a man and a woman have when they stay out so late in the night? And you guys were standing at the police station's entrance, and it says a lot. I guess one of you got into trouble and the other came to help. What you guys have is true love." Kiera rubbed her forehead helplessly, amazed by the taxi driver's wild imagination. Brexter, however, was very satisfied. After arriving at the club, many people had already left. Only Samuel and a few others were waiting. Kira took her things and waved goodbye to them. Samuel smiled and reminded Brexter, "Senior Williams, you must escort our great advocate home." Brexter nodded and said to Kira, "Wait here, I'll go get the car." Kira then remembered that he had driven to the club. It turned out that he didn't come back to the club for her after all. "Can you drive? Did you drink alcohol tonight?" "I didn't." Brexter shook his head. Kira clicked her tongue. "How did you manage that with so many old schoolmates meeting together? Those guys at your table love drinking alcohol, right?" Brexter smiled faintly. Under the neon lights of the club, he exuded a mesmerizing charm. "Whenever they tried to make me drink, I talked to them about the criminal law about drunk driving. Also, I told them if something happened to me while driving after drinking alcohol, the guys who persuaded me to drink would be held responsible too, no matter if they are alumni or my colleagues." "This guy must be a devil," Kira muttered silently. She remembered that she had once asked him to drink with her. She must have lost her mind. Chief Judge Williams, do you have any friends?" Kira asked curiously. "I think so." What does he mean by "I think so"? Kira was speechless. "Isn't Aaron your friend?" "I don't know." At the mention of this name, Brexter frowned and said, "I didn't know if he's my friend or not, but I'm sure he won't be my friend in the future." Why? She wondered if there was a grudge between the two of them. Brexter stopped walking and looked at her with resignation. "Because you liked him." After that, he strode off to get the car. Kira looked at his departing tall figure, her heart thumping wildly. So he was jealous, right? So he was serious when he said he was jealous? However, she didn't want their friendship to end just because she had once liked Aaron, even though they were just casual friends. After getting into the car, Kira gave him her address. Brexter found that the area she lived in was far from here and where he lived. He frowned. It wouldn't be convenient for him to drive her home in the future. "I can take a taxi," Kira said when she saw his frown. "It's all right. I'll get used to it anyway." Brexter started the car, thinking that they wouldn't have this inconvenience after they lived together in the future. Kira stared at him in exasperation. "I didn't say I'd go out with you, did I?" "You didn't say it." Brexter drove with his eyes on the road. "But you made me give up the plan of finding a suitable woman to marry and made me realize the importance of finding a woman I like to marry. So you have to take responsibility." Kira blinked in confusion. "Do you know how difficult it is to find a suitable partner that you like?" Brexter glanced back at her. "I know how difficult it is when you haven't found one. You might not be able to find it in your entire life. However, you have brainwashed me and therefore you have to be responsible to me." He repeated himself. Kira was dumbfounded. She had met shameless people, but she had never met such a shameless person. Where was the moral integrity? "This isn't a question about responsibility, it's about—" "I like you," Brexter smiled. His hand was on the steering wheel as he looked straight ahead. Kira was stunned and couldn't utter a single word. Why didn't she believe him? He didn't seem to be genuinely sincere. "Can I take back my words?" This conversation had given Kira a headache. Actually, it's quite good to find a suitable person to be a life companion. True love isn't reliable. If two people have been together for many years, the love between them would eventually become family affection. As a matter of fact, it's meaningless. "If that's the case, both of us should have more reasons to be together." Brexter nodded. "Therefore, it is actually not that important whether you like me or not as long as we are suitable for each other. Although I don't have a Ferrari, I can refuel your Ferrari every day. Even though I can't earn as much as you, who is a lawyer, I have a secure job after all. I will not starve myself and my wife to death. I have a strong heart, and it is definitely not an issue for me that my wife earns more than me. My biggest strength is that I have a healthy body. I never had any major illness and only have minor illness once a year. I can fight, but I don't like to use force. I prefer to resolve issues according to the law. Only if it couldn't be settled by law, then I'll consider using force. I'm not lazy, and my house is kept in good order. My cooking skills are pretty good. I don't have any bad hobbies. I don't smoke, drink, or gamble.
Kira's jaw was hanging ajar.
Oh, by the way, you definitely will not face any issues in the relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Since my parents and I don't get along well and we seldom talk to each other, you absolutely are not required to please them. However, you don't have to worry that there is no one to take care of our children. I have an aunt who is my distant relative. She is honest and reliable. She's taken care of 4 children and is very experienced. When the time comes, I can request her to take care of our children.
Kira was completely dumbfounded. Was this a date in the car at 1 a.m.?
Nevertheless, he was reasonably good at presenting his points.
He could turn his disadvantages in his favor with sound justification to the point that she couldn't refute it. She even felt that there was a certain logic to it.
The most important thing is a judge and a lawyer, Brexter smiled confidently. From now on, who would dare to offend us?
Kira couldn't help nodding. That's true. Both of them had performed reasonably in their last 2 collaborations. She sensed that her classmates were a little worried seeing them at court now.
Do you also have the same opinion as me?
Although he was concentrating on driving, Brexter still noticed that she had nodded slightly. I don't have the same opinion as you, but, Chief Judge Williams, don't tell me that you're having this thought and that's why you think I'm suitable for you. Kira was exasperated. Brexter pursed his lips in silence. Kira smiled gently. It is better for you to continue to stay single. Stop. I've heard enough. Drive carefully. I need to take a rest. I drink too much and I feel dizzy. Kira leaned towards the window. Initially, she intended to evade him, continuously encouraging her to accept him by pretending to sleep. However, she didn't expect that she would fall asleep. Brexter drove to where she lived. He wasn't familiar with the neighborhood and he didn't want to bother her with questions, so he used the GPS. 10 minutes later, the car stopped at a high-end neighborhood. There were quite several villas in this community. He killed the engine and glanced at her. The woman beside him had her neck turned sideways, a strand of slightly curly long hair hanging by her ear. Beneath the strands of hair, he could see the diamond earring. Her slim neck made her look like an elegant white swan. He stared at her for a while and rolled up the window. He turned on the AC in the car, took his coat from the back seat, and gently draped it over her. Then he closed his eyes. Although he usually had to work overtime, he rarely stayed up at 2 a.m. After he closed his eyes, he felt tired. When Kira woke up, she was confused. Looking around, she realized that she was still in the car. The AC was on, so it wasn't hot. A man's suit jacket draped over her, and the faint scent of a man, mixed with the perfume in the car, wafted into her nose. She was disoriented for a moment. It was no wonder that she had been warm and comfortable in her sleep even though she was in the car. She turned to Brexter in the driver's seat. He was lounging in the leather seat and his head was still upright even though he was asleep, as self-disciplined as he was awake. The lights were off in the car, but she could see the handsome outline of his nose. This was a face that would cause jealousy in everyone's heart. Kira touched the suit in her hands, wondering if she should drape it over him. But it was already 4 a.m. and the dawn would come soon. After some thought, she coughed loudly. Brexter was immediately jolted awake and opened his eyes. His eyes were dazed for a second before he realized where he was.
When did you wake up? Why didn't you wake me up?
Kira was roaring in her heart. I coughed loudly just to wake you up. But she was amazed by this guy's willpower since it took her longer to clear her head. No wonder he was a judge while she could only be a lawyer. I should be the one to say that, Kira said awkwardly. You should have woken me up when we reached the destination. It's already 4 a.m.
Rexter looked at the time and was surprised. I thought you would wake up soon. I didn't expect you to sleep for so long. Kira was embarrassed and said unhappily, I was tired yesterday and it's so early in the morning. I couldn't control myself. She added silently in her heart, and you drove so steadily and never stepped hard on the brake. Fortunately, you fell asleep in my car. But next time you definitely can't sleep so soundly in another man's car, Brexter warned as he gazed at her deeply. Kira said bluntly, Judge Williams, this is not your business, okay? Not all men are as gentlemanly as I am. Brexter glanced at her stocking legs. What are you looking at? Kira quickly covered her thighs with her hands. If I wanted to see it, I would have seen it when you were sleeping, Brexter thought for a moment before adding, I will wait until the day you agree to let me see them. What did he mean? Kira's mind was filled with unspeakable thoughts, and her face turned red. She gritted her teeth and said, That day will never come.
Kira's face turned red, and her mind was filled with unspeakable thoughts. One day you'll be willing to be near me and won't be embarrassed in front of me, Brexter said confidently. The determination in his eyes was unshakable. Kira wasn't sure anymore under his gaze. But it was too late. She really didn't want to argue with him over such a topic. I've got to go. No matter what, thank you for today. You're welcome. The next meal's on me or on you. It's up to you, Brexter said calmly. Kira looked at him blankly. Brexter wondered what kind of makeup this woman used. Her eyes were so bright and seductive even in the middle of the night. Didn't they say that women's eyeliner would fall out if they stayed up all night? I did help you today, but I'm now your suitor, and you said I should treat you to meals since I'm a man, so I've decided to treat you. But if you refuse my invitation, then I have to ask you to treat me to a meal to thank me for the favor I did you. Kira opened her mouth. After a long while, she spat out 2 words. Scheming man. I'll take that as a compliment. Brexter smiled. He rarely smiled, and it was stunning. Kira blinked and grabbed her bag. Whatever. Drive safely on your way back. After walking for a while, she looked back and saw that the car was still there. She felt warm inside at the sight. After returning home, Kira took a quick shower and threw herself into the soft bed. She thought she would fall asleep immediately, but in the end, she couldn't. When she closed her eyes, all she could think about was Brexter's words. She got up and drank a small glass of red wine. Finally, she fell asleep. However, her sleep was really not that good. She dreamt that she was driving and then crashed into Brexter's car, and he kept nagging her about the criminal law. Kira's head hurt from his nagging, and then she was woken up by the ringing of her phone. She grabbed the speaker as if she had been saved. Hello? Hello, your head. Caleb's furious voice came from the phone. It's already 10:30 a.m., all right? My client has already been here for a long time. Why aren't you here as my assistant? Do you not want your share? Kira sat up immediately. It's so late. Of course, you're not very competent as an assistant. This share. In your dreams. I'll be there right away. Kira threw her phone down. In less than 10 minutes, she set out looking sharp. Fortunately, it was not the rush hour and it only took her half an hour to arrive at the law firm. However, by then, only Caleb was sitting in the conference room. There was an empty coffee mug on the table opposite him. He left? Kira threw her bag onto the sofa. Of course, it's already past 11. We were supposed to meet at 9, but you completely forgot about it. Caleb crossed his arms and snorted. Looks like we have to split it 60-40. After all, you're not working hard. Kira calmly rubbed the spot between her brows. Oh, I drank too much last night. By the way, do you know who I bumped into last night? Who? Caleb's interest was piqued. It can't be Brexter, can it? You're right. Kira snapped her fingers beautifully. He's a senior alumna of mine. Last night we went out for dinner and then to the club. and he even drove me home. We stayed in the car together until 4 in the morning before returning home." "Fuck!" Caleb stood up from the sofa excitedly. "The two of you were so fast." "Haha. Why didn't you guys go to the hotel, or you could have brought him home?" Kiera rolled her eyes at him. "You're overthinking it. I was too sleepy and dozed for 2 hours in the car, but we are one step closer." "The share you mentioned?" Caleb's lip twitched. "Forget it. We'll split it 60-40. Get to know Chief Judge Williams at your own pace. It's best if we don't see him in court for the rest of our lives." Kiera recalled Brexter mentioning that he liked her last night. She was in a trance for a moment. If she was really caught by him accidentally, then she wouldn't be able to bump into him in court for the rest of her life. What kind of person do you think Brexter is?" Kiera asked wonderingly. "How would I know? I'm not close to him." Caleb sighed faintly. "I used to lose cases whenever I had him as the judge, and I had thought of a roundabout way to soften him. I ran into him once at the supermarket outside the courthouse, and he was buying chewing gum. I wanted to befriend him, so I offered to pay for him. In the end, he said that I was trying to bribe him and then asked me if I knew about the crime of bribing a judicial officer. I was so scared that I ran away. Other judges aren't as difficult to approach as him." Kiera laughed out loud, but she knew it was what Brexter would do. "Okay, let's not talk about Brexter," Caleb suddenly said. "Do you know who my client's lawyer is this time?" "Is it Stewart?" "No." Caleb looked at her with a complicated expression. "It changed to Garrett." Kiera rubbed the spot between her brows. "The hell? Did you tell your client about Garrett's past relationship with me?" "I told her. She'd find out in court anyway. There's no need to hide it," Caleb said. "Guess that's why she's used him. He went out with you and knows us very well. But I told her that we also know him very well." "Indeed, no one knows this hypocrite better than we do," Kiera said indifferently. "He has his ways of doing evil things. It's indeed a little tricky, and we must be careful. Call a meeting in a while." "Okay." Court. In the large conference room, a study meeting was going on. Brexter's assistant, Sandro, noticed that his boss yawned a few times, and there were even tears on his pretty eyelashes. Sandro was a little excited. When he saw his boss this morning, he noticed that he hadn't slept well last night. Could it be that he had made some great progress last night? After the meeting ended, Brexter walked out and bumped into Secretary Linda. Secretary Linda was a warm-hearted woman. When she saw him, she smiled and said, "Brexter, I heard that you went out a few times with lawyer Kiera. Are you two dating yet?" "Not yet." Secretary Linda's eyes lit up. "Since you are not dating her, do you want to go on a blind date? The daughter of my husband's colleague works in the municipal government. She's 25 years old and single." "There's no need," Brexter flatly rejected. "What's wrong? You promised me to go on a blind date a while ago. Why can't you go and see this girl?" Secretary Linda asked. "She's a really good girl, and her work suits yours. I'm not saying that lawyer Kell is not good, but she's too beautiful and too good at earning money for someone like you. You're quiet and reserved, and I think the two of you—" Brexter stopped in his tracks and said calmly, "The most important thing for two people to be together is to like each other. I don't think equal status is an important factor." "Huh." Secretary Linda looked at him as if he was a weirdo. "Brexter, this is unlike you. Didn't you say that you don't believe in love? You even told everyone not to force you to go on a date. You said when the time is right, you'll find a suitable woman to marry." "I said those things because I didn't meet the right woman." Brexter's lips curled into a meaningful smile. Secretary Linda was stunned. After a long while, she came back to her senses and smiled. "Then I won't say anything else. Work hard and let us have a wedding feast this year." Sandro, who had been listening quietly from behind, was also stunned. It had only been one night, yet he had changed his life plan. This lawyer was incredible. It seemed that in order to make his boss happy, he had to learn more about Lawyer Kell. At 3 in the afternoon, Sandro knocked on Brexter's office door with a solemn expression. "What's the matter?" Brexter was reading the papers. There was a court hearing at 3:30. "Chief Judge, the mention for this case has been set at the end of this month. One of the lawyers is Caleb. Lawyer Kell is Caleb's assistant for this case." Brexter's expression darkened as his sharp eye swept over him. "The hearing is about to begin, and instead of helping me prepare the documents, you're still talking about this gossip." Sandro's face was flushed red from the scolding. Brexter rubbed the spot between his brows and put down the papers. He spoke coldly. "Who is Caleb? How old is he? Is he married?" "Boss, are you going to gossip before the hearing too?" Sandro mustered his courage and asked cautiously. Brexter glared at him. "I've read all my papers, but you haven't. Now answer my questions." Sandro pursed his lips. The main point of his gossip wasn't about Caleb, but his boss got jealous for no reason. I'm not sure. But since the two of them are partners, there should be nothing between them. I'll ask around for you later. What I was trying to say is that the other lawyer in the case is Garrett Lowe's. It's said that he's Lawyer Kell's ex-boyfriend." There was a strange silence for a few seconds. Sandro felt that he had gone to the North Pole. Brexter suddenly stood up and slammed the papers on the table. His face was dark, but he seemed to be restraining himself. After a long while, he asked, "How'd you know it?" "An employee working downstairs told me," Sandro said. "She often deals with those lawyers, so she knows many of them and hears all kinds of gossip about them. I came to you as soon as I heard it." Speaking of this, Sandro felt a little sullen that he had been reprimanded for it. "Tell me," Brexter turned around, looking as if he was in court. "When did they start dating? How long had they been dating? Why did they break up? How long has it been since they broke up?" Sandro was a little embarrassed because these were the things that only the people involved knew. "It seems like they broke up a year ago. I don't know how long they've been together, but I think they broke up because of the guy's character. I heard that Garrett did despicable things to win in court. He's always hiding behind the scenes and especially likes to use public opinion to pressure his opponents." Brexter frowned. He knew Kiera loved money, but she was a decent person. He didn't understand why she had dated such a man. The more he thought about it, the more displeased he felt. She had dated such a despicable person, but she wasn't willing to go out with him? Did it mean that he wasn't even as good as that despicable guy? "I heard that Garrett's quite handsome," Sandro added softly. "Shallow," Brexter said as if his words were gold. "You can go now. I need to change into my robe and prepare for court." After changing into his robe, Brexter looked at himself in the mirror. He had never paid much attention to his looks before, but he knew that he wasn't bad. Was he not as good-looking as Garrett? He took 2 deep breaths and calmed down. Brexter had once had a fiancée, so it was normal for Kiera to have a boyfriend. After all, they weren't university students. Brexter turned around, took out his cell phone, and dialed Kiera's number. The woman's cool voice came through the receiver. "Hello, this is Advocate Kiera Kell. My consultation fee is $1,800 an hour. So if you have any questions, you'll be charged by the minute." Brexter was speechless. So she didn't save his phone number. He was silent for a few seconds and hung up. He transferred $1,800 to her. At the law firm, Kiera had just put down her phone and was about to get a cup of coffee when her phone beeped with a notification. She opened it and saw that Brexter had sent her $1,800. She was stunned and quickly sent him a message. "What are you doing?" Brexter: "Didn't you say $1,800 per hour? I'll buy 1 hour of your time." Kiera remembered the call she had just received. Fuck, it was Brexter's call? Brexter sent another message. "You didn't save my phone number?" Embarrassed, Kiera pulled out the incoming call a minute ago and called back. Brexter's deep voice immediately came through. "Why didn't you save my phone number?" "I did save it before the blind date, but when I found out it was you, I felt that it was impossible between us, so I deleted it. Kira answered truthfully with a helpless smile. Brexter, stop it. You're the chief judge. There's nothing you need to consult me with. I didn't accept the $1,800 and it will return to your account tomorrow. I have something to ask, Brexter said after a moment of silence, his voice suddenly becoming gentle and mesmerizing. I want to consult Advocate Kell on how to make her fall in love with me. Kira's heart pounded violently. It was just a simple question, but her face felt inexplicably hot. Was he the mean and sharp-tongued Brexter? Was he possessed by some spirit or something? His voice was so seductive that it turned her knees weak. I'm sorry, but I'm only here to answer legal questions. Kira's mind was in a mess, but she forced herself to answer the question calmly. All right, I'll ask you a question about a legal matter, Brexter said. I want to marry Advocate Kell and draw up a prenuptial agreement. All right. In the prenuptial agreement, I'll require that if we get divorced in the future, she can take all the money I have. Kira's heart skipped a beat. Chief Judge Williams, stop joking, please. Advocate Kell, you must answer your customer's question in earnest, Brexter said with a smile. Kira resigned. All right, I can answer your question right now. But I don't have time to listen to it now. I have to go to court at 3:30. How about having dinner with me tonight? Brexter interrupted her. I'll drive to your law firm to pick you up. No, I didn't sleep well last night. I'm very tired. I just want to go home and have some food before going to bed. Aren't you tired? Kira smiled in resignation. We can have dinner another day. Okay? Brexter was actually very tired. Fortunately, he had taken a short nap in the afternoon and drank a cup of coffee. You're right. Then I'll go to your place and make a light meal for you. After that, I'll leave. Kira was shocked. After a while, she calmed down. What? We're not dating yet and you're already thinking of coming to my place? Don't get your hopes up. No one can come to my home. You misunderstood me. I didn't mean anything by it. Brexter really didn't have any other thoughts, but after thinking about it carefully, he knew it was not a good idea to go to her place at this stage. He had to take things step by step. All right, how about tomorrow? Tomorrow, then. Kira knew he wouldn't give up, so she agreed. I don't need you to pick me up. I'll drive to the place you choose to eat. I need to drive to work the next day anyway. You choose the place. I rarely eat in places other than small diners, Brexter added. After the matter was settled, Brexter put down his phone and walked out of the office. Sandro noticed that his boss's face had turned from gloomy to sunny. It was obvious that he was happy about something. He roared silently in his heart that a man in love was as unpredictable as his girlfriend. He had to please his girlfriend at home and his boss at work. Life was so hard. The hearing ended and it was almost time to get off work. Brexter went straight to his office and turned on his computer. You can go home. I'll finish the verdict before going home. Sandro sighed. Did he have to work so hard? You can write it tomorrow. I can see that you're very tired today. There's a trial tomorrow and I still have a new case to look at, Brexter said calmly. The most important thing is that I have an appointment with lawyer Kell for dinner tomorrow night. Sandro understood. Chief Judge, do you need to order some flowers? I have a business card for that. Brexter looked at him in bafflement and nodded. Maybe she'll like it. I better bring some flowers with me. Sandro thought to himself that all women liked flowers, only silly women didn't like flowers. Oh, right. I took a look at the case allocation form in the afternoon. Why do I have more cases than other judges? Brexter tapped on the table with his knuckles. He studied his schedule and had difficulty finding a time slot for dating. It's because you're the only judge in the entire court who isn't married, Sandro said sadly. During meetings, everyone would ask if you could take more cases. Since no one waits for you at home after work, you said yes. How come I don't remember it? Brexter's face was gloomy. It was 3 years ago? Sandro stammered. Poor him. As Brexter's assistant, he had the heaviest workload among all the assistants. Could it be that his boss had finally understood the situation? Then his bad days were coming to an end. Brexter understood. Tomorrow, you tell them I have taken on too much for them in the past 3 years. Now, it's time for them to repay me. I will, Sandro nodded. He could imagine the sad mood of the judges. The next afternoon, a fellow colleague bumped into Brexter in the corridor. He had a bitter expression on his face. Brexter, look at us. We're over 50 years old. We're not as energetic as before, and we have old parents to take care of. You young people should be at the forefront of the nation's construction. The cases? That's right, I'm really envious of you. You're over 50 years old and you're about to retire. When that time comes, you'll definitely feel depressed with no cases to work on. So you must take on a few more big cases before you retire. Brexter patted him on the shoulder. Oh, by the way, didn't you say that you wanted me to work hard so that you can attend my wedding? I'm working hard, but I need you guys to share my burden. After he finished speaking, he ignored the man's pained expression and walked away. At the law firm, Kiera was discussing a case with a client in the reception room. Caleb was chanting with a small candle in his hands. Sasha and the other new interns were chatting with another female lawyer of the law firm, Hannah, about the trendiest entertainment gossip. While everyone was tirelessly sharing the gossip, Johnny, an intern lawyer, suddenly gasped. Oh my God! Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Who did I see? He patted his colleagues around him on the shoulders. Who did you see? Is Jennifer in our law firm? Sasha turned her head and saw a tall and lean figure walking in. His eyes were sharp, his expression was stern, and he was wearing a black jacket over a white shirt and a pair of dark brown casual pants. He walked in with an imposing aura. Everyone's minds went blank in horror. Sasha stuttered. I seem to see Chief Judge Williams in our law firm. You're right. Hannah's forehead was drenched in a cold sweat. In the first half of the year, she had bumped into Brexter a few times in court and she was still afraid to see him. What was this big shot doing here? Oh, right. The rumor said that he was having an affair with Kiera. Hannah, as the most senior lawyer in this group, had no choice but to buck up and force out a smile. Chief Judge Williams, what brings you here? Brexter pursed his lips as he looked around the law firm. The office was quite big, clean, and tidy, neatly divided into sections. There was also a faint fragrance in the air, which smelled a little like the scent of Kiera's body. He glanced at the sandalwood incense at the door and instantly understood. The law firm seemed to have 10+ employees. The oldest one was a woman in her 40s. The rest were even younger. The women wore exquisite makeup. The men wore suits. Looking at them, he wondered if these people were lawyers or models. He frowned. No wonder this law firm lost cases. To be a lawyer, one must have some abilities. And the man wearing a sweater was even holding a candle and worshiping in the furthest corner of the office. Could God help him win cases in court? The people in the office felt that his gaze was like a radar scanning their insides. Hannah, who was standing in front of him, was trembling in fear. She was screaming silently. Advocate Caleb, why are you still chanting? Come and meet the big shot. I'm here to see Kiera. Brexter finally spoke, his voice calm. I've asked her out for dinner. I see. Everyone's eyes lit up, admiring their lawyer Kell for daring to have dinner with such a devil. Lawyer Kell is discussing a case with a client, Sasha said hurriedly. Do you want me to show you to her office? You can wait there. There's no need. I've never come here before. I'd like to look around, Brexter said calmly. All right. Hannah braced herself and shouted at Caleb. Advocate Caleb! Chief Judge Williams is here! Stop praying! Caleb's hand that was holding the candle trembled, and he turned to look at Brexter, who was standing behind him. He froze. A few seconds later, he strode forward with a smile on his face. Chief Judge Williams, it's such an honor to have you come to our law firm. I'm Caleb, one of the law partners here. Brexter looked him up and down. This was the Caleb that Sandro had mentioned. He was wearing glasses and looked refined, but his looks were very ordinary. I've seen you before, in court. Oh, right, you even tried to bribe me at the entrance of the court, right? Brexter suddenly smiled. Caleb felt like crying. This person's memory was too good. Chief Judge Williams, I didn't try to bribe you. Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't have bribed you with $3, right? I just saw you and tried to show my respect for you. Really, I didn't mean anything by it. You must focus your mind on the lawsuits, Brexter suddenly said. You think that by giving me a piece of gum, your opponent will think that I'm on good terms with you and will panic in court, right? I've seen this method many times. Yes, you are right. Caleb's face turned red in mortification. He roared silently to Kiera to come out as soon as possible. They just couldn't handle this devil. Brexter looked around dubiously while Caleb shifted his weight from one foot to the other. Oh, by the way, you and Kiera were classmates? Brexter asked calmly. We went to the same university when we studied abroad, but I was a few years older than her. Since we're both from Rosewood City, we opened the law firm together after we returned, Caleb quickly replied. That's impressive. You're around my age, right? Brexter said. I'm older than you by a few years, Caleb said embarrassedly. Then you must be married. That's right. I've been married for almost 4 years, and my kid's in kindergarten. Caleb relaxed. He wasn't sure if it was his imagination, but ever since he said that he was married, Brexter seemed to have softened his attitude towards him. They had walked to the door of the reception room. Kiera happened to be walking out with her client. When she saw Brexter, she was surprised. Why are you... I happened to be in the neighborhood doing some business this afternoon, so I had the court's driver drop me off here. It saved me the trouble of having to drive over again, Brexter explained calmly. Kiera felt weird, but she had a client with her, so she didn't ask more questions. She returned to the client. Don't worry. If you want a lawsuit, just go back and prepare the relevant documents according to my instructions. Thank you, Miss Kell. See you later. She shook hands with the client. After the client left, Kiera looked at the time. It was already 5:30 p.m. Caleb hurriedly said, Go and have dinner with Chief Judge Williams. You won't find a spot in a good restaurant if you're late. Kiera glanced at him in exasperation. He looked like a lackey now. Which restaurant shall we go to? Brexter asked. Hearing the question, many colleagues looked over in curiosity. Kiera coughed lightly. Let's talk about it in the car. She put some documents in her bag and walked out of the office with him. When they passed by the spiritual stage, Brexter couldn't take it anymore and said, You lawyers actually believe in such things? God of wealth? Of course I believe in it. All business people believe in it, Kiera pouted. Moreover, she had lost more than $10 million this year just because of him. How could she not worship the God of wealth? Besides, this was just a representation of their faith. There was nothing cultural or religious about it. Yes, Caleb nodded embarrassedly. Our law firm is planning to pay a visit to the Alador Mountain on Sunday to worship the gods. Brexter had heard of Alador Mountain. It was a tourist attraction in the neighboring city. There was a large rock on the mountain, and it was said that many people went there to worship it for wealth. It was an old tale based on mythology. If that's the case, then I'll go with you guys, Brexter suddenly said. I thought you didn't believe in such things, Kiera could not help but say. I just want to spend more time with you. Brexter looked at her and a smile suddenly appeared on his lips. She heard the gasp from her colleagues. Kira felt heat rise in her cheeks under his dark gaze. It will be tiring to hike in the mountains. That's why you need my company. Brexter nodded. Caleb looked at him with envy. Chief Judge Williams, you're really considerate. Since that's the case, let's go together. The bus we hired is pretty big anyway. Thank you. Brexter looked at him gratefully. Caleb was very excited. He was even more excited than when he won the lottery. He had been given many cold shoulders by Brexter, so he felt flattered at the slightest compliment. Kira's lips twitched, feeling her colleagues had all betrayed her. When they reached the parking lot, Kira unlocked her BMW. Brexter got in the passenger seat. Kira asked, How are you going to go home after dinner? You won't let me drive you home, will you? I'll take a taxi. Brexter tilted his head and contemplated. I wonder where you would take me to eat. Kira was exasperated. You're the one who's asking me out now. Do you think it's right for me to arrange the place for dinner? Because I don't know much about romance, Brexter replied matter-of-factly. You know more about it than I do. Kira sighed. At least he knew his weakness. But why did it feel like she was chasing after him instead of him chasing her? Let's go and eat somewhere casual. Brexter nodded. It was a 20-minute drive to the restaurant. Brexter was stunned as soon as he stepped in. This restaurant was very large and had retro decorations. The warm color of the interior was dim and made the place look like an art gallery. Every goblet and plate on the tables glittered under the lights. There were dozens of tables neatly arranged in the hall. The eaters included tourists and locals. Everyone looked quiet and cultured. Could this be one of those places that Sandro mentioned when couples kissed and held hands under the dim lights? Why did you stop? Let's go. Kira turned her head and motioned. Brexter's face turned hot. He was secretly glad that the lights were dim and she couldn't see his flushed face. The two of them sat at a table for two, which was covered with a blue brocade. The waiter handed over the menu. Brexter took a look and had a rough idea of the prices. Kira observed his expression and asked, What do you want to eat? Brexter ordered Australian beef ribs and black fish roe with pancakes, while Kira ordered a filet with red wine and foie gras, salmon with cream and mushroom sauce, and 3-ball ice cream. After the waiter left, Kira quickly tied her hair up with a hairband and asked with a smile, Chief Judge Williams, don't you think that this restaurant doesn't fit in with you? I never went to such restaurants, Brexter said honestly. Are you trying to use this restaurant to tell me that the two of us aren't suitable? We have different ideas about consumption and we like different things. Kira sighed softly. It was easy to talk to smart people. It wasn't that she felt nothing with Brexter, but she had known that the two of them weren't suitable from the first time they met. You like to go to a home-style restaurant, and I want to go to a place where I can enjoy the nice decorations and atmosphere. Our ideas of consumption are different. Kiara, Brexter interrupted her. Have you ever wondered why Aaron, as rich as he is, never eats out? Kiara was stunned. After a while, under his dark gaze, she said, Because he thinks that the food outside isn't clean. But I'm different from him. Then ask the married people around you. Do they still eat out after they get married? Brexter looked as if he was in a business negotiation, saying each word with confidence. First of all, you don't know much about my financial ability. You think that the meal is too expensive for me. Brexter leaned back into his chair and smiled calmly. Kiara, I can tell you clearly that before we get married, if you want to eat at a place like this, I can afford it. After we get married, we can eat out occasionally. We're not young anymore. Aren't you tired of eating out? Kiara was speechless. When she was in her early 20s, she loved to drink with her friends and enjoy things that money could buy. But gradually, she started to get tired of this lifestyle. Sometimes she preferred to go home and watch TV or read a book. As for meals, in the past, She had been so busy with the work that she ate out every day. In the end, she got gastroenteritis and was in so much pain. Later on, she found that cooking at home was actually healthier. Kiera, if you were 25 or younger, I definitely wouldn't have asked you out, Rexter said sincerely. If you were, you and I wouldn't match. Even if I liked you, I wouldn't have pursued you because I couldn't give you the life you wanted. Kiera smiled. I have a feeling that you like me for my age? No. Rexter paused and twirled the glass in his hand. When we were on our blind date, I liked your shameless way. He raised his head, a hint of a smile appearing in his dark eyes. You knew that we were on a blind date, yet you pretended to have a meal with a friend and mocked me. Your poor acting skills and shamelessness left me in awe. Kiera's lips twitched, her face turning red in embarrassment. Chief Judge Williams, are you going to finish this meal or not? I'm surprised that you dared to mention the blind date. You even made me pay for a glass of fruit juice. I will remember it forever. If I didn't make you pay, how would I have gotten your contact? After Brexter said that, he cleared his throat and took a sip from his glass, blocking half of his firm face with the glass. Kiera was stunned, but when she came back to her senses, she suddenly understood. For some reason, a warm feeling rose in her chest. So that was what he had been up to. The music of the violin rose in the dining room. Kiera said cheekily, So, you took a liking to me on the blind date. I didn't, Brexter denied immediately. I just had never met a woman like you before. After that, your display of strength in the parking lot made me think that no one could bring you down. I'm usually very busy at work, so I can't spend a lot of time with my wife. So I hope that my future wife can protect herself well. I'm sorry. Although I'm very strong, I have my moments of weakness. I also want a man who can protect me. Kiera rolled her eyes. You're looking for a female superhero, but I'm not. That's what I wanted for a suitable partner initially. It was all theory. Brexter looked at her calmly. After I got to know you better, I realized that I want to protect you. Kiera's heart missed a beat when she saw Brexter's burning gaze. He was flirting with her again. Fortunately, at that moment, the thick soup was served. Looking at the steaming hot chicken and mushroom soup, Brexter suddenly said, Actually, for a restaurant in Rosewood City, this should be considered a relatively cheap place. Kiera, it's not easy for you to find a restaurant with a decent environment and affordable prices. You are amazing. The more he interacted with her, the more he realized how valuable she was. On the surface, she seemed to love money, but she had a way with it and never took advantage of others. There are some women who take advantage of the fact that men were paying and would bring them to expensive restaurants. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that, but Kiera's choice of restaurant was a very considerate one. Kiera was a little embarrassed when he exposed her. Brexter was really too observant. Under his sharp gaze, he seemed to be able to pick out all the little details. Looks like I don't know you well enough. Kiera was also very smart, and she quickly realized something. You must have been to too many restaurants with your ex-girlfriend in the past. After asking that question, she felt a little uncomfortable. But she also understood that everyone has a past. Neither of them was an innocent young man or woman. Brexter frowned when he heard that, as though he remembered an unpleasant past. It's okay if you don't want to talk about it, Kiera said calmly. She had heard about him being abandoned by his fiancée. For a man, that must have been a very embarrassing past, and he must have loved that woman very much. Food was served one after another. It was Brexter's steak and Kiera's foie gras. Kiera cut open the foie gras skillfully. She noticed that Brexter, who likes to eat in traditional restaurants, was a little unfamiliar at first, but he quickly familiarized himself. However, Kiera felt that it was more suitable for him to retrieve his memories. After swallowing the steak, Brexter suddenly looked up with a straight and deep look in his eyes. I used to patronize these restaurants when I was dating. I can see that. Kiera nodded. The foie gras in her mouth tasted strange. I'm sure you really cherished your girlfriend back then. Ex-girlfriend. Brexter corrected her calmly, but with a hint of sadness in his eyes. You must have heard that I was the one who was abandoned. Kira's lips curled up in embarrassment. That should have been a sad past. Since I've decided to pursue you, it's only right that I am honest about my past. Brexter put down his fork and knife and wore a helpless smile on his face. Sometimes being a judge has its own disadvantages. Others may feel that the judge is in control of everything in court, including the outcome of a case. My ex-girlfriend's father's company was once involved in a financial dispute and needed my help, but I refused. Kiera was stunned, and at that moment she suddenly felt a little sympathetic. So your girlfriend must have had a grudge against you? Not really, but there must have been some estrangement. Brexter frowned. Subsequently, I don't know how their family settled the case. Even though my ex-girlfriend and I didn't break up, and her father's company wasn't affected, because of that incident, she did not feel very comfortable. She always thought that I did not cherish her family and her. She thought that I was too heartless, and her parents went from liking me to opposing me. They even stopped mentioning the wedding date that was originally set. They also tried to sow discord between my ex-girlfriend and me behind my back. Furthermore, something happened to my family after that. They felt that I was heartless and unreliable, so I was dumped. Just like that. After he finished speaking, he quickly took a sip of warm water. His short hair was shrouded in the light from the retro lamp above his head, resulting in his eyes revealing a sense of subtle loneliness uncommon to him. Kiera's heart skipped a beat inexplicably. All of a sudden, she felt that she understood him very well. It was probably because she had also been berated by her loved ones for being a heartless person who only cared about money and not family affection. At this moment, she felt that she was very similar to Brexter. I don't understand why, Kiera. I thought you would understand me. Suddenly, Brexter smiled at her. His eyebrows seemed to be able to glow under the light. Kiera's face was burning hot and her lips were curling. What do I understand about you? I don't understand anything. Brexter did not say a word. He just stared at her quietly. I had this feeling when I saw you arguing with your parents at the mental hospital the other day. Kiera glared at him in annoyance. You think I will sympathize with you since we share the same predicament? Am I right? That's the reason why you pursued me. In fact, you still haven't gotten over your ex-girlfriend. No, it was already over. Even if I didn't meet you, I wouldn't go back to her. There's nothing left to resolve. Brexter shook his head without hesitation. That was because she didn't understand me. If two persons were to accompany each other throughout their life, they would have to understand each other. Kiera was speechless. That was literally true. In this regard, he seemed to be able to move on quite well. Do you hate her? No. Why would you hate a person who didn't understand you? She didn't do it intentionally. She just didn't understand me. Brexter continued to talk as he cut a piece of steak simultaneously and put it onto her plate. Besides, putting yourself into her shoes, it wasn't anyone's fault. Kiera didn't notice that a piece of steak had been put onto her plate. She was completely immersed in what he had said. She fell into a trance for a moment, and then she casually forked a piece of food into her mouth. As she ate, she realized something was not right. She looked across and saw Brexter smiling at her. You put your meat on my plate? Kiera's eyes widened in shock. I thought you might like it. With a brooding gaze, Brexter whispered, Was it delicious? Kiera swallowed it quickly and replied, It tasted terrible. It tasted good. Brexter raised his eyebrows. Since I confessed to you about my ex-girlfriend in return, shouldn't you confess to me about your ex-boyfriend? Kira wiped her lips with a piece of tissue and purposely responded sinisterly. How do you know I only had one ex-boyfriend? I had many. Which of them do you want to hear about? Brexter tightened his grip on his knife and fork and smiled. Since you had so many, let's talk about your unrequited love for Aaron. Kira lowered her head dejectedly. Tell me about Garrett. Brexter put down his knife and fork and leaned back slowly on his chair. How do you know about him? Kira gritted her teeth. I don't know during that time how unforgettable your romantic relationship with him was, but a lot of them in the academy were aware of it. Therefore, it was not a big surprise that I heard about it. Brexter smiled cynically. I heard that his conduct as a lawyer left much to be desired. Miss Kell, your taste was certainly strange. Kira rolled her eyes at him in embarrassment. She admitted, as you already knew, his conduct left much to be desired. In the beginning, I was blind and he was too perfect. At that time, it happened that I was too busy with work and a lot of things happened at home concurrently. In the end, my gastroenteritis flared up, and during those days, he showed great concern for me and therefore, I was touched by him. Hearing her words, Brexter felt as if he was suffering from gastroenteritis as well. It wasn't a good feeling. So just because of that, you were moved by him? Does that mean as long as I'm nice to you and my character is good, you'll go out with me? Brexter was a little frustrated. If I can do all the above, will you go out with me? How would I know if you're a good person? Who knows if you're not a hypocrite? To put it bluntly, I've only met you a few times and I don't know you very well, Kira said bluntly. You said that you would show concern for my well-being, but now you're just saying that. You haven't even done it yet, and you're asking me to date you? Brexter, enough is enough. Brexter thought about it carefully and agreed. You'll find out soon enough. Tell me, how did Garrett treat you? Why should I tell you? He's him. You're you. Kira was exasperated. Did this guy want to learn from her ex-boyfriend? That's ridiculous. Brexter fell silent. At the next table sat a couple. They were sitting side by side on the leather sofa. The man was helping the woman cut the steak. After cutting it, he said dotingly, Come, darling, let me feed you. The woman opened her mouth shyly and took the steak, then kissed the man. Darling, you are so considerate. Darling, don't say that. This is what I should do. This steak is very difficult to cut. I can't tire your little hands. After saying that, the man hugged the woman and started to kiss her like there was no one else around. Brexter watched them with the intention to learn from them, but as he watched, his ears got hotter and hotter. Kira saw this scene and put a hand on her forehead in embarrassment. Couldn't the lovers restrain themselves a bit? This man was so disgusting. Please, there were people sitting here. Brexter retracted his gaze and calmed himself down. Then he took Kira's plate and said quietly, I'll cut the foie gras for you. I can't tire your little hands. Kira's leg trembled. Strangely, those disgusting and pretentious words didn't sound so disgusting when he spoke them. Instead of disgusting, they sounded husky and sexy. Brexter, can you not learn from them? How hard can it be to cut the foie gras? Kira came to her senses, but he had barely moved her plate to the side. Brexter frowned and pondered for a few seconds before saying, I'm not sure. I'll know after I cut it. He quickly cut the foie gras and raised his head. Do you want me to feed you? That's what lovers do, and you're not my boyfriend, Kira reminded him with a flushed face. A hint of regret flashed across Brexter's eyes, but he didn't push her and returned the plate to her. Kira ate the foie gras and suddenly felt that a woman who needed a man to cut foie gras and steak for her was so pretentious. Perhaps it was because she had been single for too long. Suddenly, a young delivery guy appeared in front of her with a bouquet of flowers wrapped in pink paper. "Excuse me, are you Miss Kiera? Here are your flowers." Not only were there pink and white roses, but there were also hydrangeas. They were beautiful and not tacky at all. Surprised, she looked at Brexter. "Thank you?" Kiera raised her sexy eyebrows. She had to admit that it felt good to receive such a beautiful bouquet. Brexter's lips curved up. He had to admit that his assistant's idea of giving flowers was an excellent one. Although he didn't understand what was so good about flowers, as long as she liked them, it was fine. "I didn't know that you were actually quite good at pleasing women." Kiera gently waved the flowers in her hand. "Didn't you say that you don't understand romance at all? I'm sure you used these tricks on your ex-girlfriend before." After saying that, she was stunned at what she had said. Why did she mention his ex-girlfriend again and again today? She was even unhappy that he had done these things with his ex-girlfriend. She hoped that he wouldn't think she was jealous. Uneasily, she looked at the person opposite her. Brexter obviously didn't realize it, but he was also stunned for a moment. "I don't have any experience in chasing women because women always chase me." Kiera blinked. All right, what else could she say? Some people were born to be so awesome. After all, he was so handsome. "I'm not like you," Brexter smiled unkindly. "I've never had the experience of falling in love with someone, but failing to win the person's heart." Kiera gulped down a mouthful of wine gloomily. "Chief Judge Williams, can we let this go?" "Sure, but don't call me that in the future." Brexter looked displeased. "You can call me Brexter." Kiera chewed on those two words, her heart thumping. She did sometimes call him that. We aren't that close, right?" Kiera said, embarrassed. "I asked you to call me Brexter, not darling." Brexter smiled. Kiera was even more embarrassed, the heat on her face intensifying. "I know." "My colleagues call me that too. Are they very close?" Brexter didn't agree. "You think too much about it. Even if we're casual friends, you can still call me Brexter." Kiera thought gloomily that maybe she was thinking too much, but she still felt a little strange calling him Brexter. "Maybe. I haven't changed from our tit-for-tat relationship yet." "I understand," Brexter said with a fake smile. "After all, you once cursed me for being cuckolded, cheated on, and impotent after I got married." Kiera gulped. "I'm definitely not impotent," Brexter added. Kiera almost spat out the wine in her mouth. She suspected her body temperature was at least 38 degrees. "Thank you. You don't have to explain this to me." Kiera raised her hand and said in embarrassment. "I know. I will prove it with my actions in the future." Brexter nodded solemnly. "Brexter!" Kiera put down the wine glass with a flushed face. "You're shameless." "I admit it." Brexter was silent for a while before he said honestly, "This is the first time in my life that I want to be shameless with a woman." "Can you tell me why?" How was she supposed to answer such a question? She couldn't possibly say that he had a male hormone imbalance. Kiera sipped the wine, pretending not to hear him. She had never seen such an honest hoodlum before. "Eat something. It won't taste good when it gets cold." She didn't want to continue this topic with him. Anyway, the two of them didn't lack topics during the dinner. On the contrary, they got to know each other better. Brexter finished his meal and went to pay the bill. When he came back, he asked, "Miss Kell, will you have another dinner date with me?" Kiera held her glass of wine and waited for him to continue. Sure enough, Brexter continued. "This meal is on me, which means you still owe me a meal for helping you last time. If you agree to go out with me, you will owe me nothing. If you don't agree, then I have no choice but to use that favor to ask you out." Kiera smiled, like a flower blossoming under the light. She had never expected Brexter to be so cheeky. "If it's possible, I hope that you'll owe me a meal for the rest of your life," Brexter said in a calm voice, his eyes shining. What he meant was that if she agreed to go out with him, he'd be the one paying for every date. and he would be the one paying for the rest of his life. Kiara was frustrated that her brain worked too fast and she could immediately understand the meaning behind his words. Some words of love were straightforward and touching, while some were more stirring due to their subtleness, especially when the speaker had a handsome face and a sexy voice. It only took about 10 seconds for Kiara's face to turn pink under his gaze. How was she supposed to answer him? She was screaming in her heart. But as a woman, she had to show him that she wasn't easily moved. She had to let him know that she was a beautiful woman whose heart wasn't stirred easily. I don't know if I will owe you the meal forever, Kiara forced out an indifferent smile. But didn't you say that you're going to Alador Mountain with us on Sunday? Yes, I'm going to pray for a good marriage. What are you praying for? Brexter smiled. Kiara raised her eyebrows. I'm sorry, I don't pray for marriage. For someone like me who had a crush on a man but failed to win his heart, I have many admirers, so I don't need to pray for a good marriage. I understand you were just unlucky and had an indecent ex-boyfriend. Brexter narrowed his eyes, a faint smile on his face. Actually, you can pray for a good boyfriend because you had bad luck in love. Kiara's smile froze. But you really don't need to pray for a good marriage. Brexter revealed a charming smile. I'll pray for both of us. He was flirting with her again. Don't you have anything to say? Brexter asked. What should I say? Kiara tried to control her blush and asked. You can say... Brexter paused, the corner of his lips curving up. I think what you said is pretty good. Kiara rolled her eyes at him. Chief Judge Williams, I realize that you're becoming more and more shameless. Brexter, he reminded her. Brexter repeated, Brexter, call me Brexter from now on. You have called me by my name before. I heard that. I'm afraid you'll forget. Now call me Brexter, Brexter said, waiting patiently. I won't, Kiara gritted her teeth. If you call me Chief Judge Williams again, Brexter frowned and continued, I'll make you call me Brexter for the rest of your life as punishment. How's that? Kiara leaned back in her chair, her lips curling into a sly smile. All right. I was planning to call you darling if we were to get married. Looks like I'll continue calling you Brexter. Brexter was taken aback and furrowed his brows deeply. Of course, he didn't want her to call him Brexter after they got married. If we were to hear hubby or darling from her alluring lips. Brexter suddenly felt dry in his mouth. Forget it, but don't make the mistake again. So what if I make the mistake again? It's up to me, Kiara muttered to herself silently. You're still calling me Miss Kell. I won't feel well. Brexter suddenly coughed behind his fist, lowering his head. After all, I'm now a suitor who has high expectations for you. Those words seemed to pierce through the air into her heart. It didn't hurt, but it was itchy. Kiara pinched her thigh, telling herself to calm down. Her previous relationship failed because she had entered it without knowing the other party well. This time, she must control herself. After all, she had only had one meal with him. Don't lose your head over sweet words and a handsome face. I've heard this kind of words many times, Kiara said with a smile. I've seen the world, so I always judge a person by his actions. Of course, Brexter nodded in agreement. It's still early. Why don't we watch a movie together? Kiara thought about it for a while. She didn't mind spending more time with Brexter. What movies do you like? Speaking of movies, the last time she saw one was 2 months ago with Ariana. Brexter looked blank. Are there any good movies recently? I haven't been to a movie theater in 3 years. She hadn't watched a movie for 2 months, but he hadn't done it for 3 years? It seemed he was more pathetic than she was. Then what movies did you watch with your ex-girlfriend? Kiara asked. I don't know, Brexter frowned. I don't remember. Kiara smiled. Regardless of whether this answer was true or not, She was quite satisfied. Let's see what movies are on recently. As she spoke, she turned on an app on her cell phone. Then Richard's call came in. She had a feeling that her plans to watch a movie tonight would be ruined. After all, ever since Richard fell in love, he didn't hang out with friends without a good reason. Hello, Richard. Kiera, have you had supper? Remember once I told you that Jen and I are going to have a prenup? Today she came to my place, so I'd like you to come over and discuss it with us, Richard said cheerfully. Obviously, he was in a good mood. Tonight, Kiera glanced at Brexter. Can't we do it another day? No, she's been quite busy recently. We're getting married soon, Richard said in a low voice. You're my lawyer. I'm telling you, no matter what Jim brings up later, you must agree. If it's something I can't do, we'll figure out a way to deal with it later. Did he mean that he was willing to give Jen all he had if she asked? Kiera sighed. Good men nowadays were practically extinct, but she had met several in her life, so every time she was about to give up, she'd think of them and find hope to continue. Okay, I'll come over in a while. After Kiera ended the call, Brexter's handsome face darkened with disappointment since he had heard her words. You're going to stand me up? No, I'm not going to stand you up, Kiera said in all seriousness. Because we only started talking about watching a movie 4 or 5 minutes ago, and we didn't even decide what we were going to watch yet. You're going to go back on your word after standing me up? Brexter raised an eyebrow. Kiera looked at him for a while and gave in to resignation. I can't help it. Richard is my bread and butter and one of my big clients. I must go and see him when he asks me to. What if he wants you to go and see him on the day of our wedding? Brexter's brows were furrowed so tightly that it could kill a fly. He didn't like her using the term bread and butter to describe another man. That's possible, Kiera was amused. You're a charming woman, so it's not impossible, Brexter said expressionlessly. Kiera was a little embarrassed by the sudden compliment. Thank you for your sincere compliment, but Richard is about to get married, so don't think too much about it. He asked me to set up a prenup, and his wife is Jennifer, a very famous and beautiful actress. Oh, Brexter nodded calmly. I made the final decision on her case in court. A film company sued her for breach of contract. Kiera sighed. I was telling you she's a famous actress, and you talk about her lawsuit. Brexter blinked. I'm sorry, but I don't know anything about her other than the case. Since you know so much about her, can you tell me what brilliant films she starred in? Kiera suddenly realized that she only knew Jennifer's lawsuits since she had helped her with a few cases, but she couldn't name any of the films she had starred in. Why can't you answer me right away? Brexter gazed at her and smiled. Do you know her as little as I do? All right, I can't bicker with you now. Kiera grabbed her bag and picked up the flowers from the table. I really have to go. You can take a taxi. Brexter walked her to the car. As he watched her carefully place the flowers on the passenger seat, he suddenly felt a sense of satisfaction. It felt good to see she was careful with the gift he had given her. Kiera, I'll be busy in the next few days, but I will come to Alador Mountain on Sunday, Brexter said. Don't stay out too late. Send me a message when you get home. Okay. Kiera turned to look at the figure standing by the car door, her heart inexplicably softening. On the way to Richard's villa, she was pleased with the fragrance of the flowers filling the car. After arriving at the villa, Kiera rang the doorbell, and it was Jennifer who opened the door. The movie star had removed her makeup, washed her hair, and changed into home clothes. However, this was the first time that Kiera saw Jennifer in Richard's house. After all, they were going to be married. It seemed Richard had finally gotten what he wanted. Miss Kell, I'm sorry to have made you come so late. Jennifer suddenly sniffed and then laughed. It seems like I've interrupted your date or something. Kiera was surprised. You have the scent of fresh flowers on you? Jennifer said with a smile. It seems like you were on a date tonight. Richard was thinking of setting you up with someone, but it seems it's not necessary. Kiera sniffed her clothes. It turned out that Jennifer had a good nose. Okay, please come in. Jennifer brought her slippers. Richard's just in the bathroom. After she finished speaking, Richard walked out of the bathroom downstairs. Kiera, what have you been busy with lately? I'm working as an assistant for Caleb. Kiera took a tea from the maid. I'm working on a case that involves a large amount of money. Tisk, tisk, you've become someone's assistant? Richard smiled and said, It's time to have a boyfriend. Kiera was speechless. One moment, he was mocking her for being an assistant, and the next moment, he was saying that she needed a boyfriend. Was there any logic in these two things? Richard held Jennifer's hand and said blissfully, Ever since we decided to marry, I began to understand why Aaron always encourages people around him to get married as soon as possible. Kiera was speechless. A moment ago, he had ridiculed her for being someone's assistant, but now he was saying that she needed a boyfriend. What did the two things have to do with each other? Richard held Jennifer's hand and said blissfully, Ever since we decided to get married, I begin to understand why Aaron always encourages the people around him to get married as soon as possible. Kiera, I've been thinking a lot lately, and I've finally found a good boyfriend candidate for you. The general manager of Splingo on risk control. You don't need me to tell you about his abilities. Richard, you're about to get married. There should be a lot of things to prepare for the wedding. Do you still have the time to dwell on such trivial things? Kiera calmly took a sip of tea. She had always liked the tea in Richard's house. It's because we're old friends. Richard smiled. He had finally found a way to take revenge after being ridiculed by Aaron for being single for so many years. Jennifer rolled her eyes at him. He was truly shameless. If Kiera were a man, she wouldn't feel so pressured. Nowadays, a man could remain single at 40 years old without feeling pressured as long as he was rich and handsome. However, women face more pressure than men. Richard wasn't a good friend. Miss Kell is so beautiful and capable, and I'm sure she has many admirers, Jennifer said with a kind smile. I was just saying that I smell the scent of flowers on her. A man must have given her flowers. I bet there must be a bouquet of flowers in her car. Really? Richard was surprised. He had intended to be a matchmaker. Kiera, who gave it to you? Kiera rubbed her forehead. The two acted as if they had gone into her car and seen the flowers. We're just getting to know each other now. If we're suitable for each other, you guys will meet him in the future. But I don't trust your judgment in men. Richard clicked his tongue and said, I don't even want to mention your ex-boyfriend. On the surface, he practically treated you like a queen. But behind your back, he tried so many tricks to set me against your law firm so that I would hand the business to him. Fortunately, I was smart enough to see through his tricks and told you to be careful of him. In the end, it didn't take long for him to reveal his true colors. He also underestimated me. He thought that Splingo worked with you just because we're alumni. Did he think that I was an idiot? Kiera heaved a sigh of relief. Why did they have to dig up the past that she couldn't bear to look back on? How could you date such a scumbag? That's enough, Jennifer interrupted Richard's rambling. The men nowadays are so hypocritical. I'm not one of them, Richard quickly said. So you have good taste in men, but Kiera's taste is very strange. She needs to make a big change. He had never understood why Kiera's unrequited love for the eccentric Aaron. As Aaron's buddy, he had put up with him for years. Kiera put down her teacup and said, You're right. I need to make a big change. That's why I've decided to try it out with Brexter. Didn't you say that if he and I were to get together, we would be the Smith couple in the legal world? Richard was stunned. Brexter's cold and unkind face flashed across his mind. And when he imagined the two of them talking about criminal law, his entire body trembled. You two want to try it out? Kiera smiled but did not say anything. Richard said, Kiera, don't do it. That guy is sometimes so ruthless. Sometimes? Kiera was puzzled. Richard said seriously, He's a judge and I know he has his responsibilities, but he even made his parents refuse to talk to him. He suddenly paused, remembering that Kira also had problems with her parents. I'm not talking about you, you're the exception. Kira smiled calmly. I'm not the exception. It's just that no matter if you're a judge or a lawyer, sometimes you have to be ruthless. Otherwise, how would you handle cases? Forget it. You'll never understand it. I'll never understand it, but Brexter does? Richard sensed something. Are you serious with him? If Kira and Brexter got married, he'd often see Brexter. At this thought, Richard felt his scalp tingle. Can you handle him? You can't even handle Aaron. Can you handle him? Jennifer pinched his arm and said, Don't underestimate Miss Kell's charms. Richard grimaced. Baby, I was joking. Amused, Kira opened her laptop and said, Let's talk business. Now, let me tell you how much money Richard has. As Kira listed the real estate, shares, funds, and stocks, Jennifer was surprised that Richard had such a big fortune even though she had known he was wealthy. It seems that I underestimated you. Jennifer smiled and glanced at Richard. Richard was very proud as he finally understood the purpose of earning money was to be praised by his wife. This is all because of President Bennett's excellent investment abilities. Kira interrupted him in a flat voice. Richard makes a lot of money as he follows Aaron's investments. Mr. Bennett is really amazing. Jennifer nodded and stopped praising Richard. Richard glared at Kira gloomily. She was definitely getting back at him for saying that she couldn't handle Brexter. Kira pretended not to see it. Jennifer, you can set up the compensation in the prenuptial agreement in the case that Richard cheats on you in the future. For example, if he cheats on you, you can divorce him with every penny he has going into your pocket. Jennifer looked at Richard in surprise. Richard puffed out his chest. I definitely won't cheat on you. Jennifer's gaze was gentle. She held his hand and shook her head. It's not necessary. If he lets me down, we can just divorce and go our separate ways. I won't take the money that he has before marriage. Kira was surprised. Richard frowned and said, Babe. Jennifer smiled faintly. Many people say that I marry you for your money, but I can make more money myself. I don't lack money. One day, if you do something to let me down, it only means that I chose the wrong person or that I'm not attractive enough. I will only take what belongs to me, and then the two of us will have nothing to do with each other. Richard was stunned and held her hand tightly. Jennifer looked at him and smiled sweetly. Kira looked at them with envy, admiring Jennifer's confidence in herself. As a lawyer, she had seen many cold prenuptial contracts and people fighting fiercely over money when they divorced. She suddenly thought of Brexter. He had even sent her $1,800 to consult with her about the prenuptial contract. If she were to get married, she would probably treat the prenuptial contract as Jennifer did. At 10 p.m., Kira was ready to leave. I'll prepare the contract and send it over to you two in a couple of days. Thank you for your hard work. Jennifer walked her to the door. Miss Kell, remember to bring your date to our wedding. Oh, Kira didn't know what to say. Richard would get married in 2 weeks. This was a little difficult. Good luck! Jennifer raised her fist in encouragement. On the way back, Kira turned on the radio. The RJ happened to be talking about the wedding of the popular movie star Jennifer. She sighed. A movie star's wedding was indeed different. It was torture for single people. When she drove through a crossing, Brexter's call came in. The moment Kira answered it, he happened to hear the lyrics of the song playing on the radio. After a long wait, you finally came. Luckily, I didn't give up. Brexter paused for a moment when he heard the pleasant singing. Then he said, This song is very suitable for us now. Kira was embarrassed. The radio station is playing it. I know, I didn't say that you're playing it. Brexter smiled. Kira suddenly felt as if he had seen through her. I'm not home yet. I know, you said the song is played by the radio station, so you must be in the car. Kira was speechless. Even though he did not say it, she could hear the hint of, "You're so stupid," in his words. "You're really smart," she said disgruntledly. She yawned and started the car again. "If you're tired, drive slowly," Brexter reminded her. "Richard made you work so late and didn't even consider that you're a woman and that it isn't safe for you to drive home at this late hour." "Have you considered it before?" Kira smiled. Brexter was silent for a moment before replying. "No, I haven't." "He's the same." "All right, I'm driving now. I'll send you a message when I get home." After reaching home on the other side of the city, she sent Brexter a message. "I'm home." Looking at the two words, a strange feeling suddenly rose in her heart. It had been a long, long time since she sent these two words to someone. No one cared if she got home safely or not. Brexter replied, "Good. By the way, what do I need to take with me on Sunday when we go to Alador Mountain?" Kira smiled and replied, "I won't tell you." Kira, why did you change your username right after our blind date? Did you do it because I said your name was outdated? About 2 minutes later, Brexter replied, "Yes. After our blind date, I realized that my future wife was an expert in sophistry. So I changed my username. Do you like it?" Kira's face turned red immediately as her heartstring was stirred by his words. Fortunately, he couldn't see her face. But this person was really so sneaky. Old fox. Kira smiled and felt a little giddy despite herself. The next day, when Kira stepped into the office, all the colleagues of the law firm immediately looked on with admiration. Even the senior lawyer, Hannah, looked at her with admiration on her face. "Kira, you're good. When I heard the rumor about you and Chief Judge Williams, I thought it was you who kept pestering him. I didn't expect." "Tisk, tisk. It seems you've won his heart. Amazing. I have a feeling that Chief Judge Williams is the one," Sasha said obsequiously. "Miss Kell, you'll definitely become a legend among the lawyers." Exasperated, Kira wanted to tell her that she didn't want to become a legend in this way. Caleb winked at her. "To spice things up between you and Chief Judge Williams, I've decided to make the event on Sunday more exciting." Kira had an ominous feeling. Caleb chuckled. "I've decided that we won't take the cable car that day. We'll hike all the way to the top of the mountain." "Are you crazy?" Kira widened her eyes. "Do you know how high the mountain is? Did you ask others' opinions?" "Miss Kell, we all agreed." The voices of their colleagues rang out at the same time. Kira was speechless. Sasha cupped her own face with both hands. "Miss Kell, don't worry. The mountain's too high for you. You can ask Chief Judge Williams to carry you on his back and test his stamina in bed." Kira's lips twitched. What the fuck did stamina in bed have to do with climbing a mountain? Moreover, Brexter worked all day long in his office and she guessed he didn't do sports. She'd thank God if he could reach the mountaintop and didn't expect him to carry her. Forget it. She'd better rely on herself. Sunday. At 8 a.m., the minibus stopped outside the office building. Kira arrived relatively early. When she got on the bus, there were already 4 or 5 colleagues inside. She greeted everyone and Sasha immediately ushered her to the last row of seats. "Miss Kell, you're and Chief Judge Williams sitting here. I cleaned the seats. It's clean and spacious. It's also private." Kira's lips twitched. Spacious was good, but what did she mean by private? She knew that she and Brexter would sit together, but these people were too deliberate. "Sasha, well done," Kira smiled and praised her. "But I don't plan to sit in the last row because if there's an accident on the highway, it's the worst spot for people to get out, so maybe you should sit in this row. I still have a lot of money waiting for me to spend." After that, she sat down in the first row. Sasha's expression turned stiff. Now that Miss Kell mentioned the danger of sitting in the last row, how could she sit in there? After Kira sat down, she suddenly regretted her decision. She should have listened to Sasha and sat in the back because the 2-seater row wasn't very spacious. It was not crowded for a woman, but Brexter was tall. But after saying those words, She couldn't be so thick-skinned as to move to the back. Just then, Brexter stepped in wearing black sports clothes and white sneakers. The zipper on the jacket was golden, and there was a golden Puma logo on the sleeves. The outfit made him look like a 30-year-old mature man, 6 or 7 years younger. Not only that, dressed in the black sports coat, which would look bad on an average person, he looked like a brand spokesperson. The jacket looked classy on him. Kiera was not the only one who thought so. The other people on the bus shared their sentiments. Caleb smacked his lips and said, "When did the Puma's clothes become so fashionable? Maybe I'll go get one." His wife, who was sitting next to him, mercilessly said, "The jacket looks good because of the wearer. If you wear it, no one would want to buy it." Caleb glared at her. When he saw his wife staring at Brexter avidly, he felt like crying. Everyone in the world liked pretty faces. Brexter did not even look at the other people on the bus. His gaze fell on Kiera sitting in the front row. Wearing a white baseball jacket and sunglasses, she turned from an efficient office lady into a youthful girl. Their jackets looked matching, one white and the other black. Brexter walked over and sat next to her. He brought a large plastic bag filled with food and drinks. Kiera looked at him. He was really tall, and the chair seemed to have shrunk after he sat down. Her shoulder was pressed against his arm, and they could smell each other's scent and feel each other's body temperature. Brexter felt it and immediately shifted to the other side, but it was still very crowded. Sasha, who was sitting behind them, whispered to the colleague sitting next to her, "I finally understand why Miss Kell insisted on sitting in a double seat. I was just stupid and naive. You know now. She likes it because of the smaller space. People in love like to sit close to each other," the colleague giggled. "You're still inexperienced compared with Miss Kell. She's a love expert." Love expert? Kiera was speechless. Did these two know that the people sitting before them could hear their whispers? What would Brexter think of her? Did he think that she had chosen the seats on purpose? She felt wronged and looked at Brexter in resignation. Brexter heard it too. He gave her a meaningful smile, his pale ears slightly red. Kiera gulped. He had really misunderstood her. She tried to explain. "Don't get it wrong. I've read lots of news of buses catching on fire on the highway. I don't think it's safe to sit in the back. It's harder to get out of the bus to sit in the back." "Okay." Brexter pursed his lips, his eyes filled with a doting smile. Kiera felt that she wouldn't be able to clear her name, no matter what she said. "Have you had breakfast?" Brexter took out a small bag from the larger bag at his feet. He took out a cake, a bottle of milk, and even a boiled egg. Although Kiera had grabbed a bite at home, she still took it politely, seeing that he had brought so much food. Sasha continued to gossip with her colleague. "Well, when I called Miss Kell this morning, she said she was having breakfast." Her colleague replied, "But this is the breakfast that Chief Judge Williams has brought for her especially. Miss Kell doesn't want him to feel bad. What a romantic couple." Kiera almost spat out a mouthful of milk. Brexter turned to look at her with a smile. Kiera couldn't take it anymore. She turned to Sasha and said, "Sasha, didn't I tell you to sit in the last row? You're so noisy." Sasha's expression froze. "Miss Kell, did you hear everything?" Kiera chuckled. "The next time you whisper, try to lower your voice." Sasha and her colleagues' faces turned red as they hurriedly moved to the back. Seeing that the two of them had finally left, Kiera coughed and braced herself to say to Brexter, "Don't believe their nonsense. This is a misunderstanding." "Kiera, if you've had breakfast, just eat this boiled egg. I cooked it at home." Brexter lowered his head and peeled the egg before passing it to her. "Don't stuff yourself for my sake. I'll feel bad if you get a stomachache." Kiera's face quickly heated up. The blush was very obvious on her fair skin. Brexter's eyes darkened. It wasn't that he had never seen a woman blush before, but that he found it especially adorable on her. He opened a bottle of mineral water and gulped down 2 mouthfuls. Kiera turned to look at his sexy Adam's apple moving up and down. A moment later, he said in a low voice.
It's pretty hot today.
Yeah, Kira nodded quickly. Maybe we are overdressed?
I think so.
Rexter unzipped his jacket, revealing the white t-shirt underneath. After everyone had arrived, the driver started the bus. Alador Mountain was located in a country of the neighboring city. It was a 2-hour drive on the highway. Most of the people on the bus had brought their families with them. Everyone was chattering and it was quite lively. In contrast, Kira and Brexter were rather quiet. Brexter glanced at the young couple behind them. The girl leaned on the guy's shoulder and the guy was feeding her food. But what was he feeding her? Meat jerky? Brexter hadn't brought any meat jerky. He picked up the plastic bag. Miss Kell, would you like some snacks? I bought a lot. Kira nodded. She had guessed that he would buy snacks, so she didn't bring any. If he didn't prepare anything, then there would be no need for him to think about it. She just didn't know what he had bought. Kira opened the bag and took a look. She was stunned. Cookies? Biscuits? Cakes? Unbelievable! Kira raised her head and stared into his eyes. You bought all these for me? Brexter nodded. I bought them from the convenience store near my home. Kira took a deep breath. We don't know each other well, but you must know that I'm a young woman, not someone in her 70s or 80s. Few young women would like to eat these as snacks. Look at what others brought. Nuts, spicy meat jerky, imported biscuits, yogurt. It's a one-day trip, okay? Brexter furrowed his brows tightly. He seemed to have realized that he had made a mistake. I'm sorry, I didn't know. When I went to visit my grandmother, I found she liked to eat these. I thought you'd like these too. I used to bring these biscuits when I hiked in the mountains. It's very filling. I'm not your grandmother. Thank you. Kira felt like crying. How could he compare her to his grandma? As for the biscuits, the only time I ate them was when I went to Tibet. Brexter realized the seriousness of the matter. Then what should I do? I'll go and buy other snacks when we get to the mountain. There won't be anything good there. Forget it. I'll make do with what we have. Luckily, you brought some fruits. Kira wished she had done the shopping. Anyways, it wasn't entirely his fault. He had asked her what she wanted to eat, and she said she wasn't picky. But she didn't expect him to be so clueless. Brexter was a little upset that things didn't go well the first time he went out with her. When you were dating your ex-girlfriend, did she eat these snacks? Kira couldn't help but asking. I gave her money and she bought them herself. Brexter suddenly realized that he still had a lot to learn about dating. However, to a woman like Kira, he had to master the skills quickly. Kira was speechless, starting to doubt whether they were suitable for each other. You won't treat me like this in the future, right? Or you'll just ignore me after I become your girlfriend and give me the money so I'll do everything myself? I won't, Brexter denied in a solemn voice. Absolutely not. Kira looked at him and sighed. After seeing what you've done, I began to doubt your words. You kept mocking me for being deceived by my ex-boyfriend. But in the end, you might not do things that even he could do for me. You're a little better than my ex-boyfriend in character. As for the rest, I'll change, Brexter quickly interrupted her, a rare look of nervousness in his eyes. He really was surprised that she'd think he was worse than that scumbag. How ridiculous. You have a long way to go, Kira said with mixed feelings. Brexter's originally bright and cheerful mood suddenly turned gloomy, as though a thunderstorm was about to strike. He silently opened a packet of dry cake. He didn't understand why she didn't like this delicious snack. When he was little, people used to give him these as gifts. But nowadays, people only loved imported snacks. In his opinion, domestic snacks were quite good. Chief Judge Williams, what are you eating? Caleb, who was sitting before them, turned around and saw the snack. Dry cakes. I didn't expect you to like them. My son also likes them. Brexter blinked. Kiera suppressed her smile and looked out the window. Rexter hesitated for a moment. He peeled a large apple and handed it to her. Since you don't like the snacks, eat an apple then. It's healthy to eat fruits. I've peeled them. Kiera looked at the apple, her head aching. She really didn't like apples, but she had to admit that apples were the best gifts no matter where she went. Seeing that he had peeled the apple for her, she took it and ate it slowly. It took her half an hour to finish the apple. The bus stopped at a service station on the highway so everyone could use the restroom. As Kiera and her colleagues went to the restroom, Rexter stood outside and waited for her. Kiera hadn't spoken much to him today, which made his heart heavy. Caleb handed him a cigarette. Chief Judge Williams, do you smoke? Rexter glanced at him expressionlessly. I don't. Caleb's legs trembled under his glance, as though he had been warned in court. Chief Judge Williams, actually, Kiera doesn't like apples. Rexter's gaze turned back to him. Say that again? Caleb's heart contracted as he replied nervously. I'm telling the truth. Once she got sick and we brought her apples. After that, we saw that the apples in her office stayed untouched until they were rotten. She preferred to eat cherries, strawberries, kiwis, lychees, mangoes, and the like. How do you know so much about her? Rexter narrowed his eyes, feeling a little jealous of the person in front of him. Because she's my business partner. We work together or socialize together, which is why I know what she likes and dislikes. Caleb felt like crying. He was kind enough to advise Rexter, but the latter actually got jealous. Also, I saw the cakes you bought. Kiera doesn't like that kind of cake. She's very particular and only eats a certain brand of cakes made with imported cream. Rexter was feeling gloomy. He always thought that everything was under his control. Even when facing issues that he was unfamiliar with, he could handle them with ease. Now, he suddenly realized that he had created a lot of problems due to his own negligence. If this was to be continued, he might as well be eliminated. What is your social media account? Rexter took out his phone. I'll add you. Caleb was stunned. Are you serious about wanting to add me? He was so excited and nervous. It was the same feeling as when your teacher mentioned to you that he wanted to be your friend. Oh my God, Caleb was under tremendous pressure. Okay, let me know later what Kiera likes and dislikes, such as which brand of cakes and what dishes she likes to eat, and what she likes to do normally, Rexter said seriously. That, actually, I'm not quite sure, Caleb replied anxiously. Then help me to find out, Rexter responded as he saw Kiera walk towards them. Caleb also noticed it and replied immediately. Don't worry, I will definitely take care of it properly. Rexter seemed to have seen Sandro's shadow on Caleb. Kiera walked towards them and looked at them. What are both of you chatting about? Rexter looked at her in embarrassment. Mr. Caleb told me that you don't like apples. Kiera rolled her eyes at Caleb helplessly. Caleb responded quickly. Alas, my legs are so sore. I'll get into the car. Indeed. Could it be more ingenuine? Kiera shook her head in amusement. Rexter looked at her expression. He couldn't help but say, Kiera, I finally understand why you had to take half an hour just to eat an apple. If you don't like to eat apples, you can tell me directly. I didn't eat the snack you bought, and if I mentioned to you that I don't like to eat apples that you peeled, wouldn't it be rude? Kiera shrugged helplessly. Chief Judge Williams, even though my favorable impression of you as my admirer keeps on decreasing, I would still respect you as a judge. Rexter's heart skipped a beat. Why are you addressing me like this again? Kiera, I'm not a Casanova. I can't do it perfectly right from the beginning. Casanovas are experienced in this. Give me a little bit of time. It won't take long. Kiera sighed. She had to admit that he did make a sensible statement. Nowadays, men with high EQ had a past that was too complicated, and they might not be faithful. However, those with a low EQ had to be trained patiently. "Get into the car," Rexter told Kiera as she nodded. When the car was on the highway, the road became crooked, especially when it had to cut through another mountain when they were about to reach Alador Mountain. There were sharp turns along the road, and those in the car were tossed around. On a few occasions, Kiera leaned towards Brexter helplessly. However, when the car negotiated another curve, Brexter was leaning toward Kiera. Her petite figure was squeezed and leaned against the window. "There are a lot of curves on this road." His gaze was low and deep. When he squeezed against her, he realized that she was a small girl. "That's right. Why are there so many curves?" Kiera felt hot and weak from being squeezed by him. If this was to be continued, she would be unable to breathe. Fortunately, before long, they arrived at their destination. Caleb sent his assistant to buy the tickets. Each one of them received one. There were a lot of candle sellers when they arrived at the entrance of the mountain. Some candles were burnt to pray and offer to the holy rock. They definitely would not ascend the mountain without praying for what they wished for. Therefore, all of them walked in together. Kiera looked at the candles for quite some time before deciding to take a handful of them to pray for wealth and well-being. In actual fact, she wanted to pray for a good marriage, but with Brexter around, she was embarrassed to do so. Brexter acted completely differently from Kiera. He took 2 packages of candles to pray for a good marriage and another package to pray for offspring. Kiera noticed it and felt a little embarrassed about it. Caleb couldn't help chuckling. "Chief Judge Williams is the best. You have foresight. Not only would you pray for a good marriage, you even prayed for offspring. With such a determined wish, the gods would definitely fulfill your wish. Miss Kell, you have to work hard." Everyone looked at Kiera and Brexter and smiled suggestively. Kiera looked at Caleb with piercing eyes. Nobody would regard you as a dumb person if you did not utter a single word. Brexter did not say a word. He just smiled and looked at her. Kiera touched her forehead and whispered to him grumpily, "It's all right if you were to pray for a good marriage, but now you even prayed for offspring? What message are you trying to convey? If you were to pray for our offspring, forget it. I'm a dink." "Is that so?" Brexter blinked calmly. "Take it easy. I'm just simply praying without any intention." Brexter took out his wallet and asked the seller, "How much do we have to pay?" Kiera quickly interrupted. "I'll pay on my own. I got candles for something I want to pray for, so it's only right that I pay. Otherwise, you would be blessed and not me. In this case, my wishes would not be fulfilled." Brexter thought about it and concurred with her view. Everyone set off to ascend the mountain after buying the candles. For the first hour, everyone was quite relaxed, chatting and laughing. However, for the next hour, Kiera felt that she was going to be paralyzed. A lot of her female colleagues also started to walk like snails. "I told you, we should have taken the cable car." Short of breath, Kiera started to complain. "Now, we couldn't even sit even if we wanted to. Oh my God! We still have to walk for another hour. I can't believe it. This is bad news. The mountain is too high." "Comrades, come on!" Caleb raised his fist while catching his breath. "Let's support our spouse and ascend the mountain together." Kiera, who was walking at the back, trembled and happened to hear their conversation. "Do you want me to help you?" Brexter stretched out his hand. Kiera noticed that those who had brought their families along had held each other's hands. She looked at the big palm in front of her. She wavered for a moment, wanting to accept his help, but she shook her head ultimately. She couldn't give in so easily because of a mountain. "Give me your bag." When he saw that she was reluctant, Brexter offered his help again. "Not necessary. It's not that heavy." Kiera shook her head. Brexter squinted his eyes looking at her before he took the bag anyway from her shoulder and hung it across his chest. "Brexter!" Kiera turned around and saw that he had hung her backpack on his body. It made him look quite comical. Kiara, you might be strong, but in a situation like this, a man needs to be utilized. Brexter walked in front of her and bent himself down. Get on my back. Kiara looked at his broad back. Although she really wanted to get on it, she still shook her head. Not necessary. I can still walk. And you also need to climb the mountain. Before she could finish her sentence, Brexter carried her in his arms instantaneously. What are you doing? Kiara exclaimed as she subconsciously hugged his neck. For the first time, she could see his handsome face from such a close range. Can't you see it? This was the first time Brexter had seen such a panicked expression on Kiara's small face. Her pointed lips curved slightly similar to the trace of snow which had started to melt. I'm carrying you. I know. Kiara was blushing. Although both of them were the last in line, she could feel that someone was looking in their direction. They all were her subordinates. She had never appeared to be so weak in front of them. She was at a loss. Put me down quickly. You behave like a hoodlum. You don't have the right to carry me. I think I'm rendering help to you. Since you could barely walk and you wouldn't let me support you, I could only carry on like this. Brexter stared at her. He walked steadily. Kiara, you're not heavy. In fact, you're quite light. You're quite thick-skinned. Kiara gritted her teeth. Behave like a hoodlum, but you called it as rendering help to me? Kiara, there are a lot of people here. What could I possibly do to you in front of them? Brexter smiled. You're right. Although I'm not your boyfriend as of now, I followed you all the way here. Is there a necessity for you to try to be brave and not utilize a man like me to help you? Didn't you mention before that you hope that you can rely on your future partner? Now is the time to consider me to be your partner. Kiara was stunned hearing this. It was true that there were a lot of people around. Therefore, it was unlikely that he could have done anything to her. However, it was really unusual to be carried so intimately by a man, especially when her body was pressed tightly against his burning chest, and her hand was hanging on his neck. His skin was so warm that it could have burnt her hands. She felt very peculiar, especially along the road up to the mountain. She was at a loss with this sort of unfamiliar intimacy. At this moment, more and more of their colleagues finally noticed them. They all looked at them with vague and surprised expressions. Sasha immediately cupped her face. Wow, Chief Judge Williams has a lot of strength. He's very manly. Miss Kell, you're so lucky. We're so envious. Yeah, another female colleague started to complain to her boyfriend. You only know how to hold my hand to walk faster. If you have the strength, you should learn from him. Her boyfriend smiled sheepishly. Forgive me, you're too heavy. Get lost. The road up to the mountain echoed with laughter. Kiara started to blush again hearing everyone's laughter. She wasn't used to being the center of attention. She whispered to Brexter. You've been carrying me for quite some time now. I know that you have the strength, but you just put me down. There's still a long way to go, and there are stairs. Her voice was too soft, and the surrounding was noisy. Brexter couldn't hear it clearly, so he only replied with before bending over and putting his ear close to her mouth. Kiara's heart skipped a beat when she saw the magnified, handsome side face right in front of her. Why did you stop talking? Brexter, who had been bending over and looking at her from his side face, noticed that she had become quiet. He stopped and looked at her directly. Both of them were already near each other, and Kiara was looking straight at him. Their eyes met at a very close range. The two pairs of dark eyes reflected each other's appearances, as if they were staring at two abysses. There seemed to be a magnetic force pulling each other into the dark abysses. Kiara could only hear her heart palpitating. His breath was just touching her lips. Brexter shifted his gaze slightly and landed on her moist and plump lips. If he bent down further, he would have kissed her. Kiara subconsciously grabbed the collar of Brexter's neck. She thought that if he were to kiss her now, she would definitely not be able to avoid it. he asked again in a low and hoarse voice. Say it again. Kira also calmed down quickly. What was she thinking about earlier? She was so nervous that she thought he might have kissed her. I said, put me down. There's still an hour for you to walk, especially the last half an hour. It's all steep slopes and stairs. That's why I have to hold you until the last half an hour so that you can conserve your energy, Brexter replied as he carried her up a little. Kira took a deep breath. It's not the moment to flaunt your superiority. You wouldn't be able to stand it. Kira, I might be in the office most of the time, but I have very good stamina. I've been jogging for 10 years without fail, Brexter explained in a low voice. Kira stared at him in astonishment. She wouldn't be able to do it even for a week. How did you do it? Brexter's eyes, which were as deep as the ocean, exuded a thin line of smile. Actually, the work pressure of being a judge is quite stressful. Occasionally, besides working, you would have to exercise so that you could maintain a healthy body and mind. I don't want to be occupied by work alone and sacrifice my health. All of a sudden, Kira was enlightened. She admired him at this instance. In the past, in order to earn more money, she would always stay up late and work overtime. Occasionally, she would have to fly to several cities in a day. It was actually quite tiring and taxing. Every day, all she wanted was to find a bed to rest. In fact, when she got older, the side effects of this overworking during her youth would surface. Actually, there's another reason. Brexter unexpectedly shared his feelings. It's because I don't have a partner to sleep beside me. To me, there's no one that I could attach to the big bed that I sleep on every night. This issue was a little off topic. Kira's ears were burning. She pretended not to hear and said, Since you have so much strength, then I would have to trouble you. If I were to get injured, you would be finished. Kira then closed her eyes, not looking at or communicating with him. Brexter looked at her with a smile. He then continued to move forward with determination. Everyone thought that he could only hold on for a short while, but they didn't expect him to carry Kira walking on the mountain road for another half an hour. Those men who weren't convinced couldn't help but admire his good stamina. Kira remembered what Sasha had mentioned before, this about good and bad. Now that she thought of it, he should be pretty good at it. Unconsciously, what she thought had made her heart burn. It wasn't until Brexter stopped in front of the stairs that he woke her up. Kiara, the stone stairs in front of us are too steep. It's not safe for me to carry you up. You have to climb it on your own. Kira opened her eyes. Brexter put her down and adjusted her clothes. After carrying her for quite some time, his handsome face was flushed. There was sweat on his forehead and nose, but he had no body odor. Although he volunteered to carry her, Kira still felt embarrassed. You better drink some water. Do you want to rest here for a moment and eat some fruit? We can rest when we walk a bit further up, Brexter replied swiftly. I just noticed that there are stalls selling food in the arbor up there. Did you mention that you didn't like to eat the food I brought? When we reach there, let's see if there's any fresh fruit sold by the farmers nearby. Kira felt a warm current flowing through her heart. Actually, after thinking about it carefully, she shouldn't have rejected him on the basis that the food that he brought didn't agree with her. After all, both of them didn't have much interaction before this. He would not have known what she liked to eat. On this occasion, Kira took the lead and walked in front of Brexter. Earlier, she had been carried by him. She had rested for quite some time now and had rejuvenated. As she walked, she suddenly realized that something was not right. Where are Caleb and the rest? Why didn't I see them? They couldn't have walked far ahead of us, could they? They're at the back, Brexter replied calmly. Kira was stunned. That's impossible. How could he manage to walk ahead of a group of people while carrying her? Those from your law firm aren't very athletic, Brexter commented with a weird expression. If they're lacking physical strength, they should have taken the cable car. Kira grimaced. It couldn't be said that they wanted to climb the mountain to provide an opportunity for both of them to develop their relationship. In addition, she thought of what Sasha had said to her the other day. Kiera didn't dare to look at his eyes directly. Her face was burning. It's because we are lacking physical strength that we are here to climb the mountain. Stop talking. Let's move. Kiera took the lead and climbed up the stairs. As the stairs were too steep, she could only climb them by holding the banisters. Brexter followed her, and when he raised his head, his gaze would land on her buttocks. He hadn't noticed it before, but now that she was wearing jeans, he suddenly realized that she was quite sexy. His dry throat instantly became drier. Brexter decided not to look up. He lowered his head to stare at the stairs. All of a sudden, she stopped. He didn't notice it, and he bumped his head into the elastic spot. Kiera cried out in a low voice. She turned around and saw his head. With her eyes wide open, she couldn't believe it. Brexter, do you want me to sue you for behaving like a pervert? Her face was instantly covered as if with rosy clouds. With all her strength, Kiera turned around to protect herself. Brexter covered his head. He was also stunned with a sense of embarrassment. You suddenly stopped. I didn't notice it. I was looking at my feet. Stop lying. Kiera didn't believe him. Her tone was serious. Brexter straightened up and looked at her calmly. You were walking in front of me. When I looked up, I could see your buttocks. Therefore, I walked with my head down. Kiera stared at him with a face flushed with anger. If she could kill him now, she would have kicked him down the mountain. You dirty rascal. Through gritted teeth, these 3 words came out of her mouth at last. Brexter felt innocent. Actually, he didn't do anything wrong. Why, he deserved to be labeled as such. Kiera, if you insist on accusing me of something I didn't do, in the future, I will not avoid looking at it and will not let you give me a dressing down without reason. I'd rather be honest with you. It meant that next time, he would stare fixedly at her. Kiera felt as though she was on fire. The entire body felt hot. You don't imagine that you will have this opportunity. This time, you walk in front of me. I'll walk in front, but you have to be careful. Don't fall down. Brexter reminded her out of goodwill. You're the one who's going to fall down. I will not. My life is precious. I still have a lot of money to spend. Kiera moved aside to let him walk in front of her. Brexter didn't mind it and walked forward at once. Kiera then realized the miserable fact of the awkwardness that Brexter went through. Indeed, when she looked up, she would have seen his buttocks. Look, he was a man of stout build. For a moment, Kiera was lost in her thoughts looking at it. Brexter unexpectedly turned and held her gaze. He asked with a faint smile, What are you looking at? Kiera shuddered and forced herself to smile awkwardly. I'm looking at your legs. They are truly straight and full of strength. Is that so? Brexter raised his brows. If that's the case, do you like them? Kiera replied naturally. Not too bad. Brexter smiled without batting an eyelid. He did not pursue this further and continued to walk. Kiera watched him walk away. She heaved a sigh of relief. She could now understand what Brexter had gone through. Those who walked at the back were indeed positioned in an awkward situation. After about 10 minutes, both of them arrived at an arbor. Some farmers were selling local specialties and fruits. However, the quality of the fruits was not especially good. In the end, they ordered 2 glasses of fresh juice and found a big rock to sit down on. It was exhausting walking all the way there. After having the juice, Kiera felt much more comfortable. When she wiped the corner of her mouth, she inadvertently turned her head and saw Brexter staring at her. The stare was burning. What are you looking at? Kiera felt uncomfortable being stared at with such intensity. When she saw his face now, she couldn't help but think of his buttocks that she kept looking at along the way. Why are you blushing? All of a sudden, Brexter asked. It's too hot. Kiera pretended to wipe her forehead. Can't you see that I'm sweating? Brexter continued to stare at her. A trace of curiosity was flashing in his eyes. Yes, you are sweating. but I did not notice that your eye makeup was melting. Kiera, your eye makeup is too heavy. Kiera was stunned, but she reacted and replied, I didn't put on any eye makeup, okay? This time it was Brexter who was stunned. That's impossible. Why are your eyelashes so thick without putting on makeup? They're naturally thick. Kiera rolled her eyes at him. However, as a girl, she was happy to be complimented for having thick eyelashes even without putting on makeup. Brexter was still suspicious. He moved closer to take a good look at her. He noticed that there were no traces of makeup on her eyelids. Kiera, you have very beautiful eyes. Unexpectedly, she was being complimented, especially when she was being stared at by him from such a close range. Kiera started to feel warmer all over. It was already very warm, but now she felt even warmer inexplicably. All right, we've taken enough rest. It's time to continue climbing up the mountain. She quickly got up and continued climbing the stairs. However, the higher they went up, the harder it was to climb. She would rest a while before climbing a few more steps, but even then, she was out of breath. She couldn't remember when Brexter offered his hand to hold her and she took it. He held her from above and both of them walked slowly to the mountaintop. Standing at the peak, she could view the mountains below shrouded in a cloud of white fog. Wow, it's breathtaking. Kiera walked to the cliff edge to enjoy the scenery. Today's weather's pretty good. Brexter glanced at their hands, which were held together. She didn't seem to notice it. Their hands were a little sweaty because they held each other too tightly earlier. When holding it in his palm, he felt that her hand was small and soft. Unlike the other girls, she was very resilient. This was perhaps due to her feminist charm. Have you been to Mount Emi? Kiera asked suddenly. If the weather's good, Mount Emi would look like an immortal palace when it's shrouded in clouds. It's even more captivating than here. I've never been there. Brexter shook his head and stared at her. I like this place more. Wherever you are, it will become more captivating. Under his gaze, the body heat generated from climbing the mountain which had subsided got the better of Kiera once again. Have you attended some courses lately? You could come out with such sweet words, Kiera teased him. I'm telling the truth, Brexter replied softly. Her ears tingled hearing this. Her chest was tickled as if 10,000 ants were crawling around. Guys, could you please step aside? We would like to take a photo, a young lady holding her phone said politely to them. Both of them then only realized that they had been standing at the cliff edge for quite some time now, which had blocked others from taking photos. Sorry, Brexter immediately pulled Kiera aside. From this small detail, Kiera instantly realized that their hands had been held together tightly. She bent her head to take a look. He clasped her hands just like an ordinary couple, his large palm wrapped around hers. This form of intimacy made Kiera flush and her heart raced. When they were climbing the mountain, she did not feel anything when he held her tightly. However, it was weird that he still held her hand although she was not required to be helped now. It was as though he had become her boyfriend. Kiera couldn't help staring at the man in front of her who was looking around. His nose bridge was as straight as the peak of a mountain. He looked radiant today and wasn't as cold and somber as he was in court. Did she have feelings towards him? She used to dislike him, but this man was too outstanding in every respect. How could one dislike him once he became gentle? At this moment, Brexter's gaze turned to her unexpectedly. Kiera was startled. She subconsciously raised her hand. May I ask how long you were going to hold my hand? Brexter remained calm. Forever. Kiera's heart palpitated. I remember that you used to wish me to remain single until the end of time. Brexter smiled. You were the one who had started to wish me to remain single until the end of time. That would be too remote. Therefore, I could only look for the person who would cast a spell on me to help me bid farewell to my bachelorhood. Kiera was speechless, but she found it comical when she recalled that, in the past, both of them used to cut each other's throats. Brexter looked at their hands, which were held together. His gaze deepened and he spoke softly. Kiera, if it is possible, I would like to hold your hand for the rest of my life in the same way as what I did when we were climbing the mountain. I don't understand why, but I feel that you're the woman that I will cherish and be with. After he finished speaking, he released her hand gently. Kiera listened to his words under his gaze. The moment her hand was released, she felt that her throat was being squeezed as though by an invisible force. It was a little bitter and throbbing. Cherish and be together? It was not that she did not want to be with such a person, especially for her who was from the legal profession. The pressure she faced was much greater than the other ordinary girls. Occasionally, she also wanted to find a person whom she could confide in. The person might not necessarily be able to share her pain in life, but could at least read her feelings. Could Brexter be the man? Miss Kell, Chief Judge Williams, I finally managed to find the both of you. Oh, that's great. All of a sudden, Caleb's voice was heard coming from below the steps, panting heavily. He was leading a large team, but he was in such a sorry state that he was practically crawling on the steps. Kiera looked at him and was speechless. If she wasn't taken care of by Brexter, she would probably end up like him. It was pathetic. The rest of the colleagues from the law firm gradually climbed up one after another. All of them sat on the ground at once, panting without taking care of their image. Sasha's makeup was sliding off. She looked enviously at Kiera's tidy appearance. Miss Kell, Chief Judge Williams truly has a lot of strength. He carried you and walked past us with vigorous strides. Whoa, why don't I have such a boyfriend? Another female colleague also exclaimed, I do have a boyfriend, but he's even weaker than I am. I would have to pull him on the way. Kiera pursed her lips. She wanted to notify them that Brexter was not her boyfriend. She was on the verge of saying it out, but decided not to.